All sports, all plays. Yeah. All sports, all plays. All sports, all plays. 365, we making a plays. You talking the game, get you through the days. We're high in the court, the dime in the lane. Variety, topics, living the same. All presentation, sports information. In the airways, taking the nation. All sport, all plays, they working your faces. Grace at the field, so tie the laces. All sports, all plays. Yeah.
Good morning, Vietnam. It is your boy Pride. It is February 23rd. Welcome to ASAP in the morning. I am joined by Jay, Dustin, and Chris. Jay, how you feeling today?
I am doing well. I honestly am, and it's good to see Dustin back in here. Right now he's in covert operations mode because he's looking over his shoulder every 5 seconds, see if the boss is coming around the corner. So that shows dedication to ASAP when you're sitting there putting your job integrity on the line. Dustin, I love you, and I'm glad you're here, brother.
Did you do your homework assignment last night that I sent you? I sent it to Pride too.
Yes, about the XFL. I must have missed that one. Then tell me what the homework assignment was.
He said it was like an hour. And by the way, what up, Fred? It was about an hour and some change. It's about the NFL stadiums.
Oh, okay. Oh, damn, I missed that one. Damn. Now I feel bad. Now I feel like I'm gonna get a non-complete.
No, I'll give you a redo. I will send you it again, and then you can do it later.
Yes, I will do it. I promise you, I will do it.
You only get 80% credit though.
Yeah. Hey, we're gonna knock 20% off.
Dustin, how you feeling this morning?
Good. Very, very well rested.
I'm glad.
You look good. Your eyes, everything is nice. You look good.
Been on a lot of short nights lately, but hey.
Coming off that nice Daytona 500. Look at him. He's all excited. He's pumped. He's amped up.
Damn. And by the way, before I say anything, Chris, how's the morning treating you so far?
It's been good this morning so far.
I'm glad. So real quick, just before we get into it, Jay, you shaved, when was it, on Sunday?
Yeah.
So I'm pretty sure you have Play-Doh in your head right now because your beard is growing back so quick.
Listen, my dad gave me a good beard. The problem is,
go ahead, Freddie.
The problem I got is I got coarse hair and sensitive skin, and it sucks to shave when you got that type of issue. So that's why I said, you know what? And everybody kept giving me a hard time. Like, I guess when I shaved Pride, they said I looked ridiculous. I don't know. They said I looked horrible. So now I'm growing it back because I got a damn complex about myself, and my confidence is on the floor right now.
Well, but I'm telling you, the reason people say you don't look right, because think about it. And listen, my sister says the same thing. When I shave, she says I look like the Cat in the Hat. That's what she said. And I ask her, why do you disrespect me like that? I never did nothing wrong. And she tells me all the time, I'm just so used to you with your beard that when you take it off, calling you ugly is an insult to ugly people. Like, that is why. And by the way, sis, if you're watching this is why I don't talk to you, because you bully me. And we're in 2022. We don't bully people. That's not what we do. And if there is any bullying, I am the bully. Like, I don't want to be bullied, but I have no problem bullying people. And by the way, just in case you didn't hear, Freddie, if you have a hot take, go ahead. We might entertain it.
Wait. Hey, he needs to put it in the private chat first so we can look at to make sure it really is a hot take before we go down that rabbit hole for an hour and a half.
Nah, we won't go down that rabbit hole. It'll be easier because he's not here to defend himself. So we could basically slander him. And and then we can spend like 5 minutes slandering him, and then we can move on to the next thing. You know what I mean? But we have a show, packed show for you. I want to start off with the NFL and XFL partnership. So the NFL basically saved the XFL. They were on some hard times. They were supposed to start the season, but then they had to stop because of COVID. They were making a comeback in 2023. It's owned by Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson. He's a part owner. His ex-wife is also another part owner. And they do have a backer. The XFL is now, in essence, going to be a breeding ground for new rules, new thoughts, new ideas, anything that the NFL wants to see if it would work. They're going to basically put it in the XFL to see whether or not it really would work. And then if it passes the XFL, then they would incorporate it into the NFL. So, Dustin, do you think this partnership will truly do anything for the sport of football?
I think it will if it works. But if it doesn't work, then it's just going to be a typical spring league that folds again within a year or two, like all the spring leagues have the last 5 years. The only thing that I really like about it is, if you remember going back to when the XFL came back a couple years ago, the one rule that I love that they had in place was that kickoff rule, where the kicking team lines up at their opponent's 35 and the receiving team lines up at their own 25, and they can't run at each other until the returner catches the ball. So I think that would actually bring more entertainment back into the kicking game, because now, 99 out of every 100 kicks are kicked out of the end zone now, so you don't even get to see barely any kick returns anymore. And I know that was one of the more exciting aspects in the game, with guys like Devin Hester and Percy Harvin and Cordero Patterson and all these guys that used to make a living on bringing the ball back on a kickoff, haven't had that opportunity anymore. So like rules like that, I think, would be good for the NFL to try. Obviously, we talk about like roughing the passer, like hitting a defenseless player and things like that. I think the XFL could experiment with some rules to kind of improve roughing the passer, improve like what is considered a hit on a defenseless player, this and that. So the NFL at least has a chance to get it right, as opposed to just throwing a flag whenever it looks like a defenseless player was hit when they really weren't hit. But you also have to take into consideration, if things don't work, it's just going to be another spring league that could fail in a couple of years, just because until one of these leagues can actually prove that they can sustain a lengthy duration, there's really not much hope in having a spring league last that long.
So, Jay, we were talking about this a little earlier, and you and I shared the same thought. We were shocked that it was the XFL.
Right.
Why do you think that it was the XFL?
That's a good point. That's a good question. I don't know if obviously The Rock, I don't know if it was just him basically, talking with the NFL. He just got to him first. Maybe he made a really good pitch. And so the NFL kind of, bought into it a little bit. I mean, it's good for the XFL. Hey, they're getting themselves relevant, or they're making themselves relevant by doing that. But yeah, man, I really think I really believe that the USFL would have been a much better minor league for them, to be honest with you. I really do. I think they had a better organization. I think they're lined up better. And I just it's hard to believe that, the XFL, which I especially after their failed attempt, because let's be honest, the only reason the USFL failed is because Donald Trump tried to get them to compete with the NFL during the same time. Had he just left it the way it was, the USFL would be huge right now.
Yep. It really would be. It really would. And I just think this was, I don't know if it was a missed opportunity, because I don't know if the USFL would really have wanted to be a breeding ground for the NFL. Maybe I'm looking at it different, Chris, but if you had to pick something to be the breeding ground, it should be the XFL, something that's new, something that's currently struggling and basically needs help to even just stay alive. I felt like the XFL was, granted, if it was my choice, I would have done the USFL. But if you're looking at it from the NFL's perspective, the XFL was basically the best victim they could use for this. So Dustin made a good point. It could work if the NFL treats it serious. Tony said the same thing. It could be a medium. It could basically be like the G League for the NBA. But again, notice that last sentence. If the NFL supports it, on a scale of 1 to 10, how confident are you that the NFL will actually treat this partnership with respect? And do you have any worries or concerns that the NFL is just going to use the XFL for like 2-3 years and then throw them away?
Yeah, I can see that happening. But with this partnership, it's just for rule changes and stuff. Right now, they're saying that they're not going to be a minor league for the NFL, is what the XFL came out and said, that it's just going to be for testing different rules that they're. But I think with the XFL as well, when they came back last time, if it wouldn't been for the pandemic, they might have made it. They weren't doing terrible. They had some cities, like St. Louis, they were selling 50,000 tickets a game there. So some of the cities they were doing good in. So the XFL might have made it if the pandemic didn't hit. But if you go back to the original XFL, that's where the NFL got the Sky Cam and some of the other stuff from. They took stuff from the original Vince McMahon's original XFL that failed.
But the problem I have with it is I feel like the XFL kind of had the reputation of being gimmicky. Everything was real gimmicky, it was hard to take them seriously. I took the USFL so much more seriously in terms of being a real league that had real talent, doing real things. And look what came out of it. You had Jim Kelly, Steve Young. A lot of good players transitioned real nice. And I think the USFL is just so much more of a mature, professional type of thing. Whereas I look at the XFL and I say, okay, this is kind of like a wrestling deal. It's more gimmicky. And I just don't know if I can take it seriously enough to be a legitimate minor league system for the NFL. It's just hard to take them serious.
Yeah, the first XFL was real gimmicky. The last XFL wasn't as gimmicky like that.
Yeah, to your point, Jay, like the first go around that the XFL came with, you had Vince McMahon create that scrum at the beginning of the game to decide who gets the kickoff, where you have two guys run after a football in the 50-yard line, and then whoever gets it gets the kickoff, which was stupid. Then you had guys like Rod Smart who could put "He Hate Me" on the back of his jersey, which was completely idiotic and asinine that you would let people do that. But then you look at the second go around for the XFL, and it actually worked very well. And I think that's the main reason why the NFL is going to use the XFL as a feeder program, because you look at some of the players that were in the XFL the second time around, there were players that played in the NFL before and either lost the spot because of whatever reason and they were just trying to get their spot back, like Cordell Jones with the DC Defenders. He was in the NFL for like 3 or 4 years. Then you've had guys like PJ Walker, who never would have been discovered if it wasn't for the XFL. And PJ Walker proved that he can ball.
Yeah, he'd been bouncing around practice squad.
Yep. And then Jordan Teamau, who was the quarterback for the St. Louis Battlehawks, landed with the Kansas City Chiefs practice squad after the XFL season. He just got drafted to the USFL, so he's getting another chance. But there were so many players in the XFL. Sammy Coates is another one. Sammy Coates had a great 4-year run in Pittsburgh up until he started to get hurt, and then he got in trouble. XFL gave him another chance to show that he was a legitimate wide receiver, and there was times where he showed that he still was a legitimate wide receiver. That's why I just think you have The Rock, which is a big name. Obviously, people are going to want to be around The Rock. They're going to want to be in something that The Rock owns. So that alone is going to bring a lot more popularity to the XFL. And the XFL is going to have money with the investors that they have now. So you're going to have a lot of these players that want to go to the XFL to be in this league, to get that second chance to prove that, hey, we deserve to be on an NFL roster one way or another, whether it's as a backup, whether it's on the practice squad or whatever. And I just think the XFL having already, in my opinion, if it wasn't for COVID, the XFL would not have folded the second time. And it would still be here. I think we would have more than 8 teams. I think we would have 12, maybe 16 teams by now. And I think it would have been one of those spring leagues that could have lasted a long time, because whatever the XFL fixed from 2002 until 2020 when it came back, everything that they made a mistake on the first time, it was fixed, and it was working the second time. And I think everybody learned from that. They learned what worked, what didn't work, and now they just want to put everything together to make it work long term.
Am I right or wrong? But I don't know if it was the USFL or the XFL that I heard this or read this about, but I think it was like NBC was like part investor or had something to do with the league. I want to say it was like maybe XFL that they had.
It was the XFL the second time. NBC was part of the deal because a lot of what NBC uses on Sunday Night Football, they incorporated into what the XFL used on Saturday.
So it was the XFL. Okay. Yeah.
Yeah. So let's see. Yeah. And to your point, listen, I do believe that the XFL the second time around, I think it would have been fine. It really was the pandemic that kind of screwed them over.
And they did one thing right that the AAF got wrong too. The AAF, if you look at all the like towns that the AAF went into, they were putting these teams in like 75, 80,000 people stadiums. So even if you sold 20,000 tickets, the stadium still looked like nobody was there. And if you look at the XFL, you take out the Seattle Dragons and you take out the Battlehawks who played in NFL stadiums, all these other teams played in stadiums that were like 20, 25,000 people, like soccer stadiums or like small college stadiums. So even if you don't sell out, 18,000 people in a 25,000 people stadium looks like a very big crowd, as opposed to 25,000 people in an 80,000 people stadium where it looks like more empty than anything. So the XFL got it right by going with smaller stadiums to create more of that college atmosphere, as opposed to just trying to sell into a big market with a big NFL stadium.
Yeah, because you can always grow into the bigger stadiums.
Mm-hmm.
Right, you really can. You know what I mean? Like it's smarter to just go start with a small stadium and then go bigger, instead of doing a bigger stadium and then just going back to going to small, because then it always looks like just the perception of it. Like Dustin says, you're not filling seats, but then when you go back to a smaller stadium, there's always this negative stigma with it that, oh, now you're pretending you're popular. Now you're about to get, which
And it's got to be cheaper too to do the smaller venues while you're growing than to rent out these bigger stadiums too. So it's got to be economically a lot better as well while you're growing.
yeah, and someone says, do y'all think it would have helped the AAF if the NFL did it with them? And I say this, I don't think it helps anybody. In all honesty, I just think the only reason that it helped the XFL was just because they were in a situation where like they closed again. You know, they stopped everything because of the pandemic. I think if it doesn't happen, or if the XFL doesn't shut down, I don't think this happens. There's no partnership. The NFL is still kind of doing its own thing. Like, honestly, like I said, I just think for the NFL's point of view, the XFL was just a perfect victim.
Well,
they were down on their luck, and they just took advantage.
The AAF shot themselves in the foot too, because in terms of broadcasting, they went on the CBS Sports Network. They didn't even get like an ESPN contract or an ABC contract or like one of those major market contracts where pretty much anybody can watch.
A lot of people don't get CBS Network.
If you don't have like DirecTV or like one of these TV packages with like the expanded sports plan, you don't even get CBS Sports Network. So whenever the AAF was on, unless the game was on NFL Network, nobody was going to see the game. Versus the XFL, you don't even have to have ESPN, but as long as you have ABC, you can watch the XFL game. So they got it right by at least getting a broadcasting partner that can get their product out to a lot more people.
And they had some on Fox as well.
Yep.
Which again, you know, look, we basically said everything there needs to be said in terms of the XFL. They learned. They're being smart. They're not doing dumb stuff. You know what I mean? And that's all it really comes down to it. Again, that, like Dustin said, the AAF kind of put themselves in a position where it is what it is. It's kind of like really the best way to really say it.
Well, it wasn't that it is what it is. They just didn't market their product. Like all of a sudden the regular season ended, and then a week later you heard about this league starting in February. Yeah. It was like the AAF, New Spring League. Like they didn't market it. And then you had the XFL, who spent basically 14 months straight marketing their product, saying that we're starting in February 2020. We're starting in February 2020. Like they spent over a year marketing their product to get the audience to come back to it, versus the AAF. I honestly didn't even know what it was until after the Super Bowl that year. I didn't even know there was going to be a spring season the year that came out. And all of a sudden during the Super Bowl, they showed that the AAF would be starting in February. I'm like, what is this? And then I started to watch it. And I mean, a couple of games were good here and there, but the talent level wasn't even close to what the XFL had.
But that's what I'm saying. That's what I'm saying. It is what it is. Because what they thought, oh yeah, if we just put it on, you know, if we do it at the Super Bowl, guess what? Everyone who's watching the Super Bowl is going to come watch us. That was basically the mentality they had, which, again,
still got to market it.
Right. Like, you know what I mean? It's almost as if they hedged their bet that this one time that we get showed, that we get put on a national scale, this one time we get put there, everyone who sees it is going to come to us. And that's what I'm saying. That's what I'm saying. It kind of is what it is, because when you do something stupid, when you're hedging your bet on one ad, just one, and you're kind of just doing others just to, oh yeah, you know, we're here, and then you're hedging your bet on one ad and it still flops. Because again, they got to understand, like, the NFL is the cream of the crop. It really is, right? Like, for instance, if during I know this will never happen, but if during a UFC pay-per-view they show a commercial for Bellator, just because you're watching UFC doesn't necessarily mean you're gonna go watch Bellator. If you see one championship and you have Demetrius Johnson on the cover and right behind him Eddie Alvarez, the casual fans know that, but that doesn't necessarily mean they're gonna go and watch it. And that's the mistake that AAF made. That's why I personally say it is what it is, because you're depending on one ad. What'd you expect?
And that's the problem that I think the USFL might run into also. All of us at least watch football enough to know that the USFL is coming back. But for the casual football fan, do you honestly think they know what the USFL is or if it's coming back? Because they're not marketing it.
I'm telling you right now, the casual fan thinks there's only 2 football leagues.
CFL and NFL.
Nope, not even the CFL. Believe it, they don't even know about the CFL. They thought it was just the NFL and the XFL. And the only reason they know about the XFL, they probably forgot about it, is just because of this.
Yep, but if you look at now, the XFL is still marketing their product that doesn't even come out for next year. Like, they're still getting it out there so people know that it's coming back. I obviously know about the USFL just because I follow football enough, but they're not even doing anything to market their product. They're not like showing like the networks they're going to be on. They're not really showing like who the coaches are. They're not really doing anything for the most part to like market their product. And I think it's going to end up being like how the AAF was, where it's just going to pop up and it's going to be, it is what it is. You're not going to get the viewership you wanted because you didn't take the time to market it like the XFL did to get the interest to come back. You're just sticking it there, expecting people to watch football because they like football.
Exactly. And that's why I said, it is what it is, because think about it. Like a lot of their, and again, it's hard to say, but a lot of their commercials or their ads just says, like, the overall gist of it, USFL coming soon. That's all it says. It doesn't say, like, okay, if you say coming soon, is there a certain timeline? Mm-hmm. If there's no timeline, where, like, do you guys have any social media that I can follow you guys to get more?
Don't tell you what cities they're in or anything.
They don't say no cities. They don't say when the next update. They don't, like, doesn't say. They don't show you players. They don't show you coaches. They don't show you owners. All they really says is, hey, we're coming. And it's like, okay, when? We're coming. By the way, pause, because I said it twice. But it's like, at some point, you got to give somebody more information.
Yeah, do you guys remember the XFL team drops, how they did it?
You said what?
Do you remember how the XFL, like, dropped their teams when they announced, like, what cities and what teams there were going to be?
I almost, check me if I'm wrong, I feel like it was like a fan vote or something.
No, that part, but when they announced the teams, they actually did a 1-hour ESPN special. And each city city had like a 10-minute video of kind of like an intro where, like, the Seattle Dragons, it showed like dragons coming out of the water and dragons coming out of the sky.
If I'm not mistaken, Dustin, didn't some of the actual owners were there too? And they actually showed.
Yep. And then the owner would bring out the head coach, which was Jim Zorn, and Jim Zorn would, like, hold out a jersey, and then one of the players on his roster would come and, like, put on the jersey. So, like, right from the start, they were pushing their product like, hey, we're going to be the NFL 2.0. Obviously, nothing's like the NFL, but, like, we're going to be the NFL 2.0. We're going to have viewership. We're going to have fans. We're going to have top quality coaches. And that's something that all these spring leagues have failed to do, which is why none of them, in my opinion, have lasted more than a couple of years, just because they don't do a good job of pushing their product. They don't do a good job of marketing their product to gain that interest before they just release it. And if you release something and there's no interest to it, it's going to fail no matter how successful you think you are.
Exactly. And Dustin, you hit it right. You hit it perfect on the head. The problem the USFL has, they just think, and the AAF had the same problem. They think we're football, the NFL is football, everyone's gonna come over here. That's not how it necessarily works. Like, even though it's the same, like, it's the same sport, but there's a talent difference.
Yeah,
there really is a talent difference.
There's not many things you can just put out there one time and people are going to see it, and then everybody just show up.
And again, like, and look, Tony and Tony says, look, you got to watch it through YouTubers. Damian says, look, I just happened to stumble upon it on YouTube. If it's that hard to find your stuff,
You're not promoting it.
You're either not promoting it or you're not doing a good job promoting it. Like I said,
Right.
but every time, like the few times they promote it, which Dustin said it, it's far and wide. But the few times that they do, they don't tell you, hey, this is where we are on YouTube. This is where we are on Twitter, Facebook. They don't tell you any of that stuff. If you watch anywhere, the NFL tells you where you can find us.
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
Right?
Oh yeah.
The baseball, Major League Baseball tells you where you can find us. Basketball, hockey, soccer, they tell you where you can find us.
Yeah,
So
Major
if you
League
don't
Soccer
know-
just had a big commercial, I think last Sunday, that lasted like
Yes.
2 minutes, that it's returning February 27th, and it's going to be on ESPN and Fox and like all these other places.
Yes.
Oh, and back in 2020 when the XFL was coming back, you couldn't watch ESPN or Fox without hearing something about the XFL.
Yeah. Literally, listen. If you were watching ESPN, and like you said, if you watched any sports network, every single time they had a commercial break,
XFL was in the corner.
you would see the XFL at least one commercial,
Mhm.
at least one. Even and there were times where it was just a quick 5-second one. XFL coming, and it will tell you the year. And it's so simple. They just said XFL. They would tell you when they were
2/19/20.
2/19/20, and then guess what they would do in the bottom? They had all their social media stuff.
Yep.
So that way, XFL, this is piquing my interest. Oh, wait, this is where I can go to find out more. This is where I can go to find out XFL. Sounds like NFL. Is it the same? What's the difference? What teams are there? How many teams are there? They sent you to where you can find this information.
And they even created the XFL app.
Like,
Yep.
Like you again, and this is a sad part about it, because when the XFL flopped the second time, which people call it a flop,
It wasn't a flop. It was COVID, and realizing that you didn't have the money to begin with to like sustain like no attendance. So if you knew that half your season you weren't going to get attendance, there's no reason to try to salvage anything.
No. So, but like that second time, like you said, what I think happened in 2002, their first go around, I think the XFL looked at the NFL.
They just jumped the gun
and said, not only that, but I just said, because you guys said it was gimmicky.
Yeah.
But their mindset was
that's what they wanted.
Exactly.
I agree.
They were like, we need to be different in some way, some aspect. We need to be different, because if we just come out and we're just like the NFL, not a lot of people are going to come to us. Like, let's be fair. Like the majority of wrestling fans don't watch other sports.
I don't know the pride. I think they would come to look. If you're not competing against the NFL, if the XFL is airing on off time, they would come to it, because there's that people want sports. They want to see something.
They do, but look at when the XFL, the AAF, and the USFL are going to take place.
Exactly, I agree.
The one reason why they have to market their product is because of March Madness.
Yeah,
4 weeks of your 10-week spring season falls in line with the biggest sporting event that the country goes through for a month. Obviously, people are going to watch March Madness more than the XFL just because of the betting, just because of the brackets, just because of everything that goes into March Madness. So if you don't promote your product to attract viewers for the other 6 weeks, your product's going to be shot, because half of your season falls into the time where everyone's watching college basketball. And then you have the NBA.
And to your point, though, Dustin, let me ask you this. So now you got the NFL, you're going to have the USFL, you're going to have the XFL. Let me ask you this: at what point? I mean, do you think the USFL could kill off the XFL, because they're going to be competing against each other? It's going to be oversaturated. How are they going to survive?
I think the XFL is going to kill off the USFL just because of having The Rock involved and having bigger investors involved. And if you actually look at the followership that the XFL had compared to what the USFL had originally, you had markets like Seattle, you had markets like St. Louis that were averaging 35 to 40,000 fans a game. I don't think anybody in the USFL ever averaged more than like 15,000 fans a game when they were there the first time. And then you even go to the AAF, you had the San Antonio Commanders who were playing at the Alamo Dome. They were averaging 45 to 50,000 people a game. Then they also put one of those AAF teams back in San Diego, and they were averaging 30 to 35,000 just because they lost their team. What the XFL has done well, and I mean, you look at the USFL right now, all their games are being played in one city. They're all being played in Birmingham, Alabama. So what's the point of having a team called the New Orleans Breakers if you're not even playing in New Orleans, you're playing in Alabama? All 8 teams are playing in Alabama. So what does that do for your fan following when none of the games are even going to be played in the city that your team is from? What the XFL did a good job of, they brought teams back to markets that lost an NFL team like St. Louis. AAF brought a team back to San Diego who lost the team. The AAF put a team in San Antonio who's trying to get an NFL franchise. And then the XFL had Orlando for a couple of years as well as the AAF. And Orlando is one of those markets that has tried to get a franchise too. So at least the XFL was able to be like, hey, you used to have an NFL franchise, so we know that your market can support our team. But you're one of these markets that have tried to get an NFL franchise for years, so we know that you can support a team here too. So at least the XFL was going to markets where immediately they would have that fan following and fan support, versus the USFL is kind of lost. Basically, in my opinion, it's a lost season this year because all of their games are being played in the same city. They're not going to have that fan following. They're not going to have that fan support because you're going to have to delete. You're going to have to leave the city that the team is supposedly from just to go to Birmingham, Alabama to watch them play.
Right. And again, and like Dustin said, a lot of the teams they went to, they just lost somebody. They either lost an NFL team, don't have one, or have been petitioning to get one. And I mean, even then, like for instance, they have one in Houston, right?
Texas is football, though. I mean, you could have like
exactly
like
if you put like they have one in Houston and Dallas, right?
And San Antonio for the AAF.
Yeah. No, I'm just talking about the XFL.
Oh yeah,
right. Like so, you have those two, and again, if you're doing all of this, but like this is part of the XFL that is very smart on their behalf. They're doing it so that way the beginning of their season, yeah, they're competing with playoff football. But after playoff football is done, you're now beginning to hit the stride of the XFL season. So now you can go from the pinnacle of one to you beginning to hit the stride of another back to back. It puts the XFL in this situation where, look, we don't have the best talent, but you can't make any argument we got the worst. Like, if you say we got the worst talent, you're an idiot. We got the schedule set up to where, yeah, the beginning of our schedule is, in kind of overlapping with playoff football. But when that's done, guess what? Now it's just us. And then combine that with the fact that they're putting their teams in football heavy places. And again, Texas is big. Texas is big.
Realistically, you could have a team in Dallas, Houston, San Antonio, and Austin.
If we're
for the XFL, and all 4 teams would sell out every single game.
Exactly, they would thrive because of how big it is. Mm-hmm. And then again, then they got LA, which again
they didn't have hardly anything for attendance because of what we talked about yesterday. It's Los Angeles. People don't care about football in Los Angeles.
Yeah, so they're probably gonna have to move it, but even then. And
move it to San Diego because the San Diego fleet from the AAF are averaging 28,000 people a game.
That's what I would do, to be honest. Honestly, the LA team, and again, these are the 18 so far. Dallas Renegades, DC Defenders, Jesus Christ. Houston Roughnecks, which, okay. Some of these names are actually kind of hilarious. But
the Roughnecks go with the Houston. The Roughnecks go with the Houston Oilers because the oil workers were called Roughnecks.
Yeah.
That's how they got that.
I'm really surprised they didn't go back to the Houston Gamblers. Oh no, Gamblers are USFL.
Yeah.
Yeah, you're talking about XFL. So
Yeah.
right, Roughnecks, I get it.
Yeah, but and then it's the LA Wildcats, which again, to Dustin's point, just move them over to San Diego because San Diego is still. Listen, that's a football place. Like they love football. Why the Chargers left San Diego, the world will never know.
Yeah.
Like, and then you got the New York Guardians, which again, New York is kind of big. Couple that with the fact that both your teams are horrible.
And the Guardians weren't any better, so that didn't help.
That's
them.
what the audience hit right in with that.
I mean, you started with what was his notes? You started with Matt McGloin as your quarterback, and then you had Luis Perez, and then you had somebody else, and Kevin Gilbride was your head coach, and yeah, just 30 degrees in the middle of February in New York, fun time.
Right, and then you got
Seattle Dragons,
the Seattle Dragons, which Seattle, another football place. Like, believe it or not, like, and it's weird, but come on now. Like, if y'all ever seen how loud Seattle can get, even when they're losing.
Well, in their defense, though, what other sports teams do they have in Seattle that were actually good? The Mariners are getting better.
And the Seattle Dragons was drawing a pretty good crowd there in Seattle.
Seattle Kraken just came into the NHL this year. So, I mean, outside of the Seahawks, you had the Seattle Sounders. Otherwise, Seattle really didn't have much to cheer about during the winter months of the year.
Yep, and then you got St. Louis, which, again,
Battlehawks.
You don't have football there. Right, and that's something that they enjoy, right? And then you got the Tampa Bay Vipers, which, let's be honest,
should have put him in Orlando.
Aside from the 2-3 years they had, like what? Tom was there for about 2 years.
Tom was there for 2 years, and then John Gruden was there for like 4.
Right, but again, I'm outside of these 2 years, most of the time they were 7 and 9.
Yeah,
I think I was like their best season, to be honest.
9 and 7 with Jameis Winston his rookie year. So, and they missed the playoffs by 1 game because there was like 4 teams 10-6 that year.
Right. So then if you couple all that, but like you said, if you want to put one in Orlando,
they should because the Orlando Apollos were 8-1 during the AAF. So they should have just scrapped the Tampa Bay Vipers and kept the Orlando Apollos and just moved them to the XFL with pretty much the same roster they had.
Right. So in terms, listen. I get why they did the partnership. I got it. You know what I mean? I just hope the NFL treats this partnership with respect. That's the only thing I ask. Treat this partnership with respect. Do not do anything dumb. Do not kill the XFL because this is something that not only could potentially work, but let's say you make it like an official partnership where you guys like trade talent or whatever, you know what I mean, or use it as a farm system. If you do that, the XFL could blow up. Because think about it, it would almost be like having the NFL year round.
Yep, and if you look at the cities that you just named for the XFL too, they're all like NFL and big market cities. Now, if you look at the teams that the AAF had, we'll take San Diego out of the equation because San Diego was an NFL town. We'll take San Antonio out because San Antonio has wanted a team for years. You had the Salt Lake Stallions. I don't think Salt Lake is an NFL market.
I don't think so either.
You had the Arizona Hotshots who played in Tempe, Arizona, which is where the Arizona Cardinals used to play before they moved. Well, that's more of a college town. That's not an NFL market. You had the Memphis Express. Memphis really isn't an NFL market because of Nashville. You had the Birmingham Iron. Well, Birmingham is definitely not an NFL market. So, I mean, and then Orlando, which Orlando's been trying to get a team for quite a while now too, but the XFL, outside of really 2 cities, all of their teams were put in like a non-NFL market, and that's kind of where they failed too, because why put your team in a non-NFL market that isn't even trying to get an NFL team at this point? You're going to try to get fans to come to your games, yes, but what kind of following are you going to get out of it? You're really not going to have much of a following to begin with.
You're muted, Pride.
That's what I said. I said yeah, and then I was like, oh no, I'm muted. But again,
I think if the NFL does it right, they could turn the XFL into something like what WWE did with NXT, where you can, like you said,
yes, that's what I'm saying. Listen, that's what they need to do. Like, do it where if you don't want to, if you want to call it developmental, whatever, I don't care. But you could do something where you have something going all year round. And it's WWE. Well, I'm not gonna say anything about NXT 2.0 because oh my god,
No.
Oh my God.
Original
But I'm
black
talking
and
about
gold.
OG NXT. I'm talking about real NXT, you know, when it was like black and yellow. Like that's what I'm talking about. Like it felt like you knew it was owned by WWE, but it also felt different.
Yep.
And that's what brought you back to it. Like because it was different, that's why you would go back. And then you started to realize, Tommaso Ciampa's really great. Like he's good. Like Johnny Gargano, he's good. The Ascension is good. And then they got called up, but that's neither here nor there. Like Alpha, you know, like American Alpha,
Yeah. Alpha Academy.
Revival. Like there's just you don't realize how good they are until you actually pay attention to them.
Right.
Do not just NFL. Don't do them dirty.
And I like Chris's point where the NFL could turn the XFL into kind of like a feeder program, much like the NBA G League and things like that. But the only way they could do it is they would have to go to 16 teams. They would not be able to do it with 8 because otherwise you're going to have basically 4 NFL teams per one XFL team trying to take players. You would need at least 16 teams so you could basically link it up. You could say New York Jets and New York Giants share this team. Yep. You can take players off of this team, and then you could be like Dallas and Houston, you share this team, you take players off of this team, Bears, Packers, et cetera, et cetera.
At both LA teams, you share this team. Like, and to your point, Dustin, like if you do it like that, and I think they are gonna get to 16 teams. I just think it's just them like, look, we just need to be able to be consistent for a couple years. And
if you give each team like a 38 team roster, and then you have like 2 NFL teams share it, you could be like, each of you get 14 contracts to choose from. Whatever 14 guys you want, take them. And then like they basically just kind of compete over the 14 guys they want. And then that's kind of like not only their practice squad roster, but it's kind of like what the NBA does, where you have 2-way contracts where you sign them, where they have that opportunity to be on the practice squad, but then they can also come up and help your active roster without having to release somebody in the process to do it.
Yeah. You know, what's interesting to me, and I was just thinking about this, and Dustin kind of made me think about it, was, with the USFL, why would they, number one, why would they pick Birmingham, Alabama? And number two, why would you have all of your teams in one stadium? To me, that doesn't make sense.
The Spring League did the same thing last year, too. They had 4 of their teams in San Antonio and the other 4 in Indianapolis.
Well, again, it's because to answer your question, Jay, they made multiple mistakes, right? First mistake is they basically bet against themselves. They felt like if we spread the teams out, no one's gonna care. You know what I mean? So that's kind of why they they feel like they put themselves in a situation. And number 2, they were banking on TV, which if any type of sport is banking solely on TV, it's not gonna work well for you.
No, not in this day and age. This ain't like the old days, because you can watch everything on their phone and everything else.
Exactly. Like you know what I mean? Like obviously you need to have TV, sure, but you also need to have a crowd. You do. You need it, right? And the thing is they're focused so much on TV that by the time they realize, we should probably have an audience. They were basically in a position where they're like, we can't spread you guys out. Like we're gonna need one centralized location and go from there.
And then, but if you're gonna do that one centralized location, why Birmingham? Of all places, why Birmingham?
This is the only thing I could possibly think of. You want to go to a place where they don't really have football like that, but at the same time, you also want to be careful where you go, where it's not NFL dominant.
Yeah, that's true.
Like you know what I mean? Like Alabama.
Yeah, no, I get it.
You know, like think about it. Alabama, that's not an NFL state.
No, it's known for
that's college. Yes, that's college. Like,
right.
That's a college place. So I get why they went there to an extent, but also let's be honest, they should have never have gotten there. Like they should have been able to spread their teams out. But again, if you're not properly promoting yourself, if you're not telling them, hey, look, you guys want any more information? This is where you can find it. If you're not doing any of that, it's almost impossible for you to take off.
Right.
Really is. And again, it doesn't matter whether or not your product is great or not. It doesn't matter. Because at the end of the day, if you can't track ice to it, you're not putting yourself in a situation where it doesn't matter. And that's just kind of the sad part about it. But, NFL, let's be honest. Football doesn't exist anywhere. There's only college and the NFL. USFL doesn't exist. The AAF doesn't exist. CFL is not for Canadian. It's for College Football League. And that is all I'm going to say about that. But moving on, this is something that I've been laughing about for a while now. So we all know this. CJ got traded to the Pelicans, right?
Yep.
And supposedly Zion it took a long time for Zion to reach out to him. And everyone is saying, oh, he's so disgruntled. Oh my God, this is horrible. This, that, and the third. Jay, Zion taking his time to reach out to CJ. Is this really that big of a deal?
Well, if you look at back when JJ Redick came out and talked about his issues with Zion and being that Zion is not fully invested in the team to begin with, and then you look at that he's kind of distanced himself already from the get-go, from day one. I don't think it's really that big of an issue, to be honest with you, because there's not something different that Zion has done. It's pretty much the same thing. It's just now you got a different player that came in, but I mean, Zion isn't invested in New Orleans. He's just not. I think Zion is ready to go, has been ready to go the day he actually came to New Orleans.
Yeah, he don't want to be in New Orleans.
Yeah.
And no, I agree with that. And Redick was saying yesterday, he was repeating the same thing yesterday, that Zion kind of goes on to a beat of his own drum, stays kind of distant. But I agree. I think he wants to be in New York. I think he's trying to get out of there and get to the Knicks.
Yeah, I definitely think so. And I just, like I said, I think because this is a pattern that's been there since day one with him. I don't think it has anything to do with CJ McCollum. It was already there from the beginning, and they just happened to draft CJ McCollum. But Zion had already checked out from day one. And every facet that you can check out, his conditioning isn't good. His health injuries aren't any good. His mental state isn't good with the team. I mean, it's all a culmination from day one. So it really has nothing to do with CJ McCollum. This is just Zion. This is who Zion is with the New Orleans Pelicans.
Oh, man. Is it my turn?
It is your turn.
It's my turn? Okay. I just want to say this because this is by far the funniest, hypocritical thing I've ever in my life have read, seen, or anything like that. And I'm explaining why. First and foremost, when was this myth brought around that Zion loves to talk to people?
Yeah.
He is the epitome of an introvert. Like if you Google shyness, Zion's face comes up. And this is not speculation. He has said it, that he's just not a people dude. That's just kind of, it's just not me. But it also, RJ Barrett said it. Cam Reddish said it back when they were at Duke. Like, everyone who's come across kids said the same thing. He really keeps to himself. He doesn't really talk. Now, this is the funny part. If Kawhi Leonard doesn't talk to anybody, that's just him. He's a cyborg. Why is it that it's fine for Kawhi, but Zion, who again, the textbook definition of an introvert? I don't get it. I just don't understand. If any, why, and again, why does he have to immediately go, oh my God, CJ, I love you, heart emoji, kissy emoji, marry me, let's move in and have kids? Is that what y'all expect him to do? And JJ Redick was like, oh yeah, I was hitting people up. It's funny how you didn't mention no one responded to you. Like you're talking about, oh yeah, this looks like a kid who wants to get out. No, this just looks like a kid. That's it. This just looks like a kid. This looks like a kid who just doesn't talk to people, who doesn't want to talk to anybody. But I don't understand this notion that everyone is trying to push forward that, oh my God, this is horrible. This is a bad look for him. Why is it a bad look for him?
Well, he's the same as he's been his whole career.
Exactly. If he had just done this now, that's one thing. This kid he's awkward. Have you seen how he runs? Someone who runs like that is not a talker. Let's just get that out the way. Like, if you run like that, you're an introvert. I don't care what no one says. That's it. That's all it really comes down to. And again, if a dude just doesn't want to talk, he just doesn't want to talk. That's really it. That doesn't necessarily mean that he wants to leave. Now, I believe he wants to, but I think it's just.
I believe he wants to leave, but I don't think this has anything to do with it.
I just think the reason he wants to leave is just because him and New Orleans, I think they both need to change the scenery. I think they need to move on and start focusing on Brandon Ingram and start building around him. And I think Zion just needs to go elsewhere. They just kind of need to split. But if the dude isn't talking, and mind you, it's not like he wasn't talking. He just didn't reach out. He reached out already, but people are slandering him and saying, oh my God, that's a problem. The dude has been an introvert since before he came out the womb. Rumor has it when he was born, he didn't even cry because that means communicating. Let this sink in. This dude, for as long as anybody's been covering him, there's one thing that's always been consistent. He doesn't like to talk. That's just him. So we can accept that he doesn't like to talk, but then they acquire a player, and we know he doesn't like to talk, yet somehow we gotta yell at him and hold it against him for not talking.
And if he was playing right now, you wouldn't hear none of this. You wouldn't hear, oh, he didn't reach out to CJ McCollum. If Williamson was on the floor playing, you wouldn't hear none of this. It's all right. It's all because they just want to. He does ratings, so if they can get his name on the story they're doing, they know they're going to get clicks and stuff on it. That's all. And
he said this is why sports is soft to tell, because all these athletes are too damn emotional. But that's the thing. Like, I don't even think CJ has a problem with it. I don't think so. I just think it's this weird narrative that they just want to push on top. Listen, and I've said this. New Orleans is going to do everything in their power to make Zion look like the bad guy. They're going to make him look like the bad guy. That's just them. That's what they want to do. And they want to make him the bad guy so that way he only has two options. Either one, he could end up crawling back to them, and the New Orleans Pelicans look like the bigger person because they gave him a second chance. Or he's going to finally one day say, look, get me up out of here. They're going to trade him. And then when they ended up trade him, they're going to make him look like Satan. And if you don't believe me, look how they did AD.
And you're right, and Pride, and because he is such an introvert, like you said, and he is such a shy person, like you said, and let's be honest, his lack of conditioning and his weight issues, it just makes Zion an easy target to pick on. To be honest with you,
it really does. It really does. Now, again, if you want to criticize him for getting injured, whatever, you know what I mean. Sleeping. If you wanted to criticize him for sleeping. For the reports that he was sleeping through the training or the tape, you know what I mean? He was skipping rehab. That's fine. That I get that. If that's true, that's something worth criticizing. They got CJ McCollum. Now look, no disrespect whatsoever, but this is something that needs to be touched on. Why are we pretending CJ McCollum is a top 15 player in the league?
That's what I was going to say. They're acting like CJ McCollum is going to make the Pelicans a championship contender.
But let's just get that out the way. Let's just get that out the way. Like we need to stop this. We really do, because again, to me, when you know a kid's an introvert and you know this and you accept it, and then all of a sudden it changes to he should have picked up the phone and called CJ. Why? Well, you're wait, hold on. Here's my question to you. Has Brandon Ingram picked up the phone yet?
That's true.
I'm asking for how long did it take Brandon Ingram to call him? Do you know how long it took him? You want to know how long it took him?
Oh,
It took him 4 days. Nobody wants to talk about that. It took him 4 days, and you ready to hear the crazy part about it? And within those 4 days, they played a game and practiced together.
Yeah.
CJ had to approach Brandon Ingram.
well, that's what I'm saying. The only reason this is even a story is because it's Zion, and everybody knows that Zion moves the needle, so they want to get something out there about him. That's all it is. Because yeah, I mean, why aren't we hearing that Ingram didn't reach out to him, or didn't stop and talk to him at practice the first day he was there?
Right, and it's just weird, like, you know. And again, I'm not gonna knock Brandon Ingram, because guess what? Brandon Ingram, also an introvert. Like, you know what I mean? Like, that team is full of introverts, bro. Like,
yeah, but it's just easier to pick on Zion. It just really is.
It's so laughably easy. And like I said, it's because of the weight. It's because of the injuries, because of all that stuff. And now it doesn't make it any better, because now John Morant is exploding, right? And now that he's exploding, now people are saying, wow, Zion. So not only you have the weight issues, not only you have the injury issues, but now the dude that was in your draft class, you guys was, you know, everyone's saying you're better. Now he's exploding, and now look at you.
Right. And again, too, Pride, though, people, you know, when they drafted Zion is supposed to be the second coming. I mean, he's supposed to be the guy. If for all intents and purposes, he is the franchise, or was supposed to be the franchise. So I think it's easier to just pick on him because he is supposed to be this guy, and he's just not. That's just not his. Like you said, it's not his personality. It's just not who he is. But they want him to be that way.
Right. He's got the game. He's got the game to be that guy. You know,
right? He just can't stay healthy in his condition, and
unfortunately, it's his health. And at the same time, also, even if his health wasn't an issue, they would still be a problem. Why? Because he just wants to show up and hoop. That's it.
Right.
All that extra stuff, like, he's a more censored version of Barry Bonds. Like, Barry Bonds will tell you, why would I sign a ball for you when I could literally walk 100 feet? I'm out the stadium and I can charge dudes $75-$100 a pop for an autograph. Why am I talking to the media when I'm not getting paid to do it? Like, I don't want to talk to y'all. And Zion is kind of like he's like a censored version. Like, why do I have to do all this extra stuff? I mean, that's basically how he's looking at it. And on top of that, when that extra stuff is, you have to go talk to people. Again, he doesn't like to do that. Like, people don't understand. When you're an introvert and you got to be around people constantly, it drains you.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
If you don't believe it, go watch that Brock Lesnar thing when he did with Pat McAfee. And he said every single time he would go out, like every time he goes in front of the public, like when he does like a show or like, even if he said it went back all the way back to high school.
But you know, Pride,
he would go home for like 2-3 days,
right?
And he would just be like numb, and he said he's basically like he got to recharge his battery.
But you know, Pride. Listen, and here's the thing, right? Look, this is the entertainment industry. Whether you like it or not, it's entertainment. You're entertaining fans. This is your job. This is what you're supposed to do. Entertain us. That's what we pay you to do. Entertain us. And it's hard to be an introvert when you're in an entertainment industry. Think about that for a minute. Now, just think that now. You're in an entertainment industry. And you want to be an introvert and come in the entertainment industry. That's just part of the process. That's part of the game. People want to talk to you. People want to know their stars. They want to know what they're thinking, what they're doing, and that's just part of entertainment. And if you don't like that, you shouldn't go into the entertainment industry. You should go try a different line of work.
Go ahead, Chris.
I think that goes to how big of a star is the player too, because you can be an introvert, and if you're not a big star, you're not going to have that problem because you're not having all the media and everybody wanting to talk to you all the time.
Yeah.
But like in Zion Williamson's case, why does he have to talk to the media?
Especially
why does he have to talk to the media? Why can't he just focus on everything and play basketball?
Because this is an entertainment industry.
I understand that, but Jay, when you say entertainment, we also need to take into consideration what entertainment we're in.
When he's on
not
a
comedian,
he's entertaining.
Right. He's not a comedian where like you have to talk. Like, for instance, like us, our entertainment comes by our communication.
I get that.
Our entertainment. Zion's entertainment comes from playing basketball.
I get it.
You know,
but unfortunately, the sports industry doesn't work that way. And people have to understand when you go into sports industry, you're not just there to play. You're there to talk and you're there to be personable. That's what the world expects. It just does.
Disagree. But I disagree.
It expects it, Pride.
I have to disagree. I have to. Now, again,
I mean, you can, but it's the truth.
But it's not, though. It's not.
It's really?
Not. Yeah, no. It's not.
I mean, if it's not the truth, then why do all the leagues and why do they stipulate you have to talk? Why do they fine you when you don't talk? Because the industry expects you to be personable.
Skip it. No, they fine you if you skip it.
Exactly.
And hold on, but if you say, like, they give you a time frame of you saying I'm not gonna go in front of media. If you say I think it's like 20 minutes before. If you let the officials know within 20 minutes, you don't get fined. Why do you think a lot of times when athletes lose and they say, "Oh, so and so is not available for media," it's because you have a time frame where you can say no. Now, if you don't say the time frame, and because the reason they do that is not because you didn't talk, but it's just because of professionalism. Because right before they go up, like they have an official go up to the announcers and they say, "These are the people that's going to be available. A, B, C, D, and E," right? And they give them enough time to say whether or not they're going to do it. If they don't hear nothing, they assume yes. And then they let you know. The reason they don't like it is because then let's say it's going to be like for the All-Star weekend. Let's say it was LeBron, Steph, let's say it was Joel Embiid, Giannis, and Devin Booker, right? Let's say Devin Booker was heated. He didn't get the starting role. Let's say he was mad about that. He got mad, right? He doesn't tell nobody. They then go to the media and say, "Hey, look, these are the 5 guys we're going to have. So if you guys have any questions for them, prepare them now. This is who you're going to have." And then all of a sudden, they go, "By the way, quick audible, Devin Booker's not going to be here. We're going to replace him with somebody else. We're going to replace him with Obi Toppin." Like, that is basically...
People are going to be pissed.
And that's why the fines come in. It's not because they skipped it. It's just you got to let us know so that way when we go to the media, that way, you know what I mean? Because we got to make sure that as much as people hate it, the NBA and the media, they kind of got to be somewhat on the same page.
Right.
So
and I get that. And I get it. And if he wants to be introverted and not talk to his teammates and things like that, that's fine, whatever. I mean, nobody gives a give a damn. It is what it is. But I think when the expectation is that when you don't want to talk to the media, I mean, and you're right, man. Hey, look, you don't have to talk to them. Do whatever you want. But don't get mad then when people pick on you because you're not personable. You're not doing this out of the other because that's just part of the game in the sports industry. They do expect you to perform, but let's be honest, the fans are what pay the bills, and the fans want to hear. They want to be taught. They want to talk to their athletes. They want to hear from their athletes in some kind of way, shape, or form. And so, I mean, it is what it is. I mean, honestly, and you're right. I mean, it shouldn't be that way, but it's still a sport. It's still an entertainment. We pay to see things and hear things.
I mean, and again, it probably is just that whole thing where they expect it because a lot of guys they come out and they talk, So I also do believe that us and the media, we're kind of spoiled in the terms that, like, when you have guys like LeBron James who will come out and answer questions, you have a guy like Giannis, you have the Joel Embiid of the world, you have the Jokic's of the world, like the top of Luka Doncic, Steph Curry, Klay Thompson. When you have these players who will talk and answer your questions, and they'll say, all right, look, this is what happened, A, B, C, and D. You know what I mean? And even not just them, even if you go down through like the all-time greats, John Stockton, he who shall not be named, his partner in crime, you know what I mean? Because we all know what he did. Charles Barkley, Hakeem Olajuwon, David Robinson, like Larry Bird, Isaiah Thomas. Like, we've seen guys like talk. So when you see that one guy that just doesn't, yeah, sure, it's weird. But also, if a guy doesn't talk, I think we should also take into consideration, like, why is he not talking? Is he not talking because he's an introvert? Or is he not talking because he's trying to make a point? And I don't think this is him trying to make a point, especially when you consider that the kid's been like this forever.
Yeah, I agree. Yeah, it is what it is. I mean, look, remember Ricky Williams? From Texas, and then he went in the NFL, the running back. He was, oh my God, talk about introvert. He wouldn't even take off his helmet when he would talk to you. He did everything underneath the helmet.
Yeah, he didn't like anybody. He would leave his helmet on, and he would just be like, just
yeah.
And
he was a hardcore introvert.
Yeah, but that's just kind of, unfortunately, that's just how it goes. And
I do believe Zion wants out of New Orleans, but I don't think that has anything to do with this.
Right. And honestly, I don't even know if he even fully wants out, to be honest. I really don't know. I just think what it really comes down to is I think he's at a crossroads where he's considering it, but at the same time, he doesn't want to be a problem. If he has a problem talking to people like the media, why would he be in the sports or entertainment if he's not a real person? Again, I was told I can't be mean, but at the same time, you're an idiot. And you're saying it makes no sense. Well, it does.
There's a lot of players that
I'm gonna ask this question one more time. What is his job? To play basketball. He's a hooper. That's his job. Okay? He's not an analyst. He's not a comedian. He's not a news anchor. His job isn't to speak. He's in the entertainment world, yes. But his entertainment is not like ours, where our entertainment is just to speak. His entertainment is basketball. His entertainment is being a hooper. That's how he
I get that, Pride, and that is his main job. But, you also have what they call a byproduct, and the byproduct of it is where the interviews come in and things like that. And they do expect that, and that is a byproduct of it. It's not his sole. Yeah, look, they pay him to. You're right. They pay him to whatever his job is in the sports world, whether it be basketball, football, whatever. That you're right. That's his main focus. That's what's going to put the contract money in there. It's just a byproduct of it. Is we also look. This is what we pay you to, but we also need you to do this.
Yep, and
that's what they expect.
And and listen, I understand that's what they expect, but that doesn't necessarily mean he has to do it. Okay, you call it a byproduct.
And you're right. Hey, you're right. He don't have to do it. I mean, nobody makes you do anything.
Right. And that's what I'm saying. Like, again, like it's not stipulated that he has to. There's no obligation. Like, if he chooses to do it, that's really him. You know what I mean? You call it a byproduct. I call it a byproduct because it's a product of the situation. But guess what? You can also say bye to that product, and you can just do your own thing.
The thing is, if he wasn't injured and he was playing, this wouldn't even have came out as a story.
No, it wouldn't. To be honest,
nobody would care that he's introvert if he was on the court playing.
Exactly. Let's be honest, bro. Like, to sit here and pretend that every single superstar in the history of the NBA loved to talk is idiotic.
I don't think they love to talk. I don't think that at all.
No, I know. That's what I'm saying. Like, and again, someone said athletes have to do press conference after the game to discuss their work after a game. He has the right to talk, or he has to talk no matter if he wants to or not. Again, this just shows you don't know what you're talking about, because how many times have they said in any sport, so-and-so is not available for media?
Marshawn Lynch was the biggest at that. Marshawn Lynch, you couldn't talk to him.
No, you couldn't.
It wasn't gonna happen. Marshawn tell you, hey, like, well, I don't talk to the press. I don't do nothing.
Couldn't.
He'd sit there, he'd say, "Okay, I'm done," and leave.
Yep.
That's it. And people want to bring up, oh, well, he got fined that one time. He got fined one time for the Super Bowl, but that's different. And the reason why that's different, do you know why they fined him? Do you want to know why? Because there's actually something you have to sign. See, this is where it's different. This is where you sign and now you become obligated to do it.
Because the TV contract.
Yes, because exactly. So you can't bring that one up because that one you actually signed for something. You actually signed something saying you would promote. If they ask you to, you would talk about it. That if they wanted to talk to you during like the Super Bowl stuff, you would have to do it. You had no choice. Why? Because you signed something. Because you signed. What do you think the teams are doing during the Pro Bowl that's in the Super Bowl? What do you think they're doing?
Yeah.
What do you think they're doing? They're doing all that stuff then. So that way comes Super Bowl. It's like Super Bowl weekend. It's all done. Now notice those right there. You have to sign and say, "Yep, I'm gonna do it." They don't have that in the regular season. They don't.
Yeah.
So again, you don't have to do a press conference. No. You don't have to do a press conference. For as long as things happen. Every time, listen, and the Giants, when Tom Coughlin would get mad at Tiki Barber because he fumbled the game away, where was he? Not available for media. As much as I love him, there have been times where Thomas Edward Patrick Brady Jr. would get tight, not available for media. Bill Belichick would get mad, we're not available for media. Matter of fact, you don't want to believe me? Basketball, Kevin Garnett, one of, if not the biggest source loser in the history of sports.
Yeah.
Anytime they took an L, not available for media. So I never understood this thing where everyone says, oh yeah, the athletes are obligated. Now, is it nice? Of course. Do I want them to? Yes, I do. Because now, you get to be inside of them, or you can watch them melt down, which is also, since I'm not the one melting down, it's also equally, equally entertaining.
That's also a reason I don't think that reporters should have votes for the Hall of Fame and the MVP awards and stuff like that, because
because they got thoughts like that.
You have players that don't deal with the media, and that should, and they hold a grudge against them players, right, and they're not going to vote for them.
And this right here is how they think. This is how they think. They need to talk to me, but they don't.
That's why they need to find a different way to do the voting for stuff like that.
And listen, when it comes to the voting, this is how I always feel like it should be. Current players, Hall of Fame players, because they know, and coaches. Like,
yeah, why are we giving a reporter
that to play against?
Why are we giving a reporter that maybe never played a sport in their whole life?
Yeah,
the power of voting on stuff like this when they never done it. It should be like you said, Hall of Famers.
Yes, because listen, if you're a Hall of Famer, more times than not, a Hall of Famer, right? Like, and again, once you're in there, I always feel like when you're a Hall of Famer, you should have a vote that counts. You should, you know what I mean? Like, because you reach the ultimate validation, I feel like you should have somewhat of a vote, right? And then obviously the players they played against, because again, how are you going to be able to say, the best way you can determine it is how did you game plan for this dude? Like Calvin Johnson, they would double team him at the line and still throw safety help over the top. There are times he's been triple teamed. If that's not Hall of Famer, I don't know what is. And again, here it is. Okay, so what would happen if the Pelicans won the finals? Players have to talk to media. They can't prevent that. Again, you're running into the point head first. The point gave you a concussion and you're bleeding. You went to the hospital. They got stitches. And in the discharge paperwork, they said the result of your injury was you running into the point head first, and you're still missing it.
Man, you're mean, Pride. Damn, you're mean, man.
I'm
sorry, but that's just damn. Golly.
I am very.
When you get to that,
Okay, look, here's the deal. You're right, Pride. Hey, look, hold on. I agree. You're not, listen, and we all know that. You're not obligated to do anything. You're not. It's just the expectation is that you should.
Right.
Because you're in the entertainment industry. And that's the point I'm trying to drive. I'm not saying that you have to do anything because you don't.
Right, because
the expectation is you should, and that's why a lot of people form opinions about people, and that's why we got stories like this, is because they don't, and so it's easier to pick on that.
Right, and again, and that's
what I'm saying.
And again, I'm not going against you because you're not saying it's obligated. You're just saying it's the expectation. And again, it is the expectation because we've been spoiled when you have other all-time greats talk to you and have conversations with you and open up and all this stuff. You kind of expect everybody to do that. You know what I mean?
Right.
But at the same time, I just don't sit here and think that even though, you know, if a player doesn't feel like talking because they're an introvert, I don't know. I don't think we should do that. And at the same time, and again, to address this point, because they're saying, what would happen if the Pelicans won the finals? First and foremost, the mere fact that you said that show, you don't watch the NBA. So right then and there, you're immediately disqualified from the conversation. Because as of right now, they're not even in the play-in. Forget playoffs, okay? So immediately, you already don't know what you're talking about. But again, let's pretend they're the number one seed. Let's pretend they sweep through the West, okay? Then, like in the Super Bowl, they sign something. Oh my God. Like, again, you're running into the point. The point injured you. You had medical evidence from the hospital when you got discharged saying what it is, and you're still missing it.
Yeah.
Like,
let's be honest, Pride. Let's be honest. You know, here's the thing, right? If you are a guy, if you're an athlete that's approachable, if you're an athlete that does interviews, if you're an athlete that people like, this, that, and the other, and you do the right things, that's where you really get your major endorsements. I mean, that leads to money. That's money. Because people want to support people they like, that you know, talk to them. And so I think sometimes you can actually hurt yourself on endorsement deals by being standoffish and not wanting to, you know, do the interviews. And because the more people like you and the more you talk to people, that's where your companies, they say, you know what, I want this guy to represent us. He's approachable, he's likable, he does the right things, he's a great athlete. This is the guy that I want representing my brand. And that leads to money. That's why I think sometimes when they don't do the interviews, or if they're like, you know, standoffish or whatever, they really hurt themselves on the financial end, because the endorsements that they could get from that would be far more greater than just saying, I don't want to do it. But again, it's not an obligation, but it does help you financially.
Yeah, of course. And again, I'm not saying it doesn't. You know what I mean?
I think it's crazy personally. But.
You know what I mean? Like, and you do have a solid point. You know, but again, those are options.
Right.
You know what I mean? And that's all I'm saying. Like again, to say that he has to talk no matter if he wants to or not.
He don't have to.
No, that's by far that's
it behooves him to, but he doesn't have to.
Right. Again, would it benefit you? Of course, but also it could be a detriment.
Yeah.
Let's not act like him talking to the media is always gonna be nice. Like again, if it was in his contract, that's one thing. It's not. Because if it was, guess what? He'd be talking to them after every game. Even if
and then you could be like, hey, if the conversation or the interview doesn't go the way you want it, you always have the right to say, get the fuck out of here. You don't say get the fuck out, but you say, I'm out of here, man. I don't have to do this interview. I'm done. Yeah, and you can walk away.
Numerous times where guys would show up and after 2 minutes get up and leave.
Pretty much.
So is it only so what? So if he doesn't want to talk, does that mean he can't get up early? Does that mean he now has to wait for the media to dismiss him?
Hey, that's true though. Hey, you're right. You're right.
Know? And again, Jay, I get what you're saying. Listen, especially for endorsements, you should.
If you want the Twan.
Right. If you want the extra, hey, you should.
Hey, let's be honest. If LeBron James if he's not likable, if he's not doing these interviews, if he's not doing all this, the majority of LeBron's money doesn't come from his contracts. It comes from his endorsements.
Right.
That's where he makes all of his money. And so he has to have a persona of approachability, of likability, doing interviews and all that, because it leads to all that money that he loves so much. And look what he does with the money. He's got the iHeart scores and, of course, all that stuff. So it benefits him. And a lot of athletes I don't think they really fully understand that by not doing this, you're really hurting yourself financially, because everybody knows the contract money is great, but the real money comes in endorsements.
Yeah, but look, if you're a big enough star, you'll get the endorsements.
Anyway.
Look at Aaron Rodgers.
You're right. You will. You're right.
Rodgers,
I don't know, man. Look, Barry Bonds was a big star.
And he still has sponsors.
Huh?
Hey, what were you saying? What were you saying about Aaron Rodgers?
Look, he wasn't nationally done. I don't know. I never really saw any commercials with Barry, and I'm not saying he didn't. I just never saw any of them.
No, he has. But now, granted, the sponsor he had wasn't much, because again, Barry didn't really care for sponsors. The only way he would do a sponsor is if it basically was a very little work, very high cash. Like that, those were the sponsors Barry wanted.
Right.
And again, not every guy wants sponsorships. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? Like,
that's true. I'll tell you right now, I'm a whore. I take all the money. Give me everything. Man, listen, I'll do whatever you want me to. You want me to wear a Speedo? I'll wear a Speedo with a freaking Subway sandwich, whatever. I don't care.
But here's also the thing. We also got to remember who's one of the
I can't get that image out of my head. No, thank you for that.
But another massive
introvert. I know you like that, Dustin. Leonard. That was for you.
Yeah,
but Kawhi Leonard is another massive introvert, and he still got sponsorships.
Yeah, that's true. You're right.
You know what I mean? Like, and not only and forget introverts. Scottie Pippen can't talk.
That's true. Oh my Lord!
And not only,
he can talk. He just makes no sense.
I'm just talking about the way he talks, not what he said. The way he talks does not sound real. It does not.
It sounds like he got kicked in the throat.
Not only that, but it's slow and long, and you always. She's like an awkward talker. But guess what? Not only was he on TV, but he's got numerous sponsorships. And again, those same sponsorships was around the time that he was doing what? Slandering the media, because it was during the time that he felt he wasn't getting the respect he needed. I mean, because again, Scotty always does the thing. 1 minute, Michael Jordan isn't that good. LeBron's the GOAT. Respect me. Then Mike has he's got that killer instinct. But Scotty goes back and forth with it, right? And every single time he says that he's better than MJ, or he feels like him and MJ are on the same thing. Like basically when he's anti-MJ, he always goes and bashes the media. Every time. He still gets sponsorships. Kawhi didn't talk to nobody. He got Marshawn Lynch.
Skittles.
I'm just here so I don't get fined. They turned that to a commercial. Let this sink in.
And then he gets Skittles. Then he gets Skittles as a sponsorship, and now he's got Eat Street.
Listen, the NFL was like, "Yo, you can't eat Skittles on the sideline." Guess what Marshawn Lynch did?
I won't eat him on the sideline. I'll eat him in the end zone. I'll put him in my pants.
What? And guess what? They tried to find him, but because of that technicality, because they messed up. They messed up.
They said he couldn't have it on the sideline. They didn't say he couldn't have it on the field.
That's where they messed up. He put it out the end zone. And the NFL was just
Don't you remember the playoff game in Seattle when it was like 30 and Marshawn Lynch had like one of those things that the quarterbacks use where they put their hands in it to keep warm? Mm-hmm. He had the thing filled with Skittles. And if you watch after every play in the backfield, he took a handful and put them in his mouth quick. Every single play. It was hilarious.
And it's crazy because like when he's doing it, he's not trying to hide it. He's just doing quick enough. Yeah, he's just doing quick enough so that way like he's ready for the plays just in case they get snapped. But every time he's just, and I remember this, I was like, what the hell? And it's funny, I didn't know it until like a couple years later that we found out that he was mic'd up, and like a lot of guys were mic'd up.
Yeah. And
it was funny because like he was just sitting there with his hands in it. And then somebody's like, yo, you cold? He was like, nah. He's like, you want some Skittles? And there's like, what? He just got his hands on. He goes, you want some Skittles? Like, wait a minute. You got Skittles in that? And it was like 2 years after. I'm like, wait a minute. You got Skittles in that? And it's crazy because like afterwards, he had like a big thing of Skittles. Like a tub of Skittles.
We're talking like movie box of Skittles galore.
That he basically was like, that's how he would refill. So every time, it is funny because like if you actually watch it, somebody, I forgot, if I could find it, I'm gonna send it to you guys. Somebody on YouTube actually broke down the game, and they actually showed you every single time when he was running, when Skittles would fall out of his thing, dog. Like every time they would fall out. I forgot the name of the. I know it was. His voice sounded weird. He was doing a voiceover, but he would literally pause it and circle it and say, "This is a Skittle, and this is what flavor it was." I'm like, Marshawn Lynch is goated. Like my guy can make you have a 20-minute video on you trying to tell me what flavor Skittle is falling out of his hand.
Man, how good a resolution must he have had on that TV or whatever it was to figure out the flavor? I mean, that's hard.
I don't know. I don't know, but you know what? Hats off to him, and hats off to Marshawn for making that possible.
Oh, absolutely.
Like by far, to this day, is one of the funniest. I've honestly, there's two videos, no, three. There's 3 videos I find myself going back to in my life. I try to go back to that one, but I can't find it. But before, when I first saw it, I was going back to it like once a week. There was that one. There's the I don't know if y'all remember it when Shannon Sharp was on the Ravens, and it was in the beginning, and like it was like in the preseason where they kind of do this. They have the rookie do the skits. It was a linebacker, Tim Johnson. He was pretending to be Shannon Sharp. And he had the bucket hat on. If you guys, it was on Hard Knocks. Matter of fact, if y'all don't remember, just look it up. It is. I would play it, but I think we'll get in trouble. Actually, that video I liked, and I made sure I saved it. I will send you. It's like a minute and like 15 seconds, and it's kind of funny because he's copying Shannon Sharp, and it's just funny because they made it different to everyone. And he had the bucket hat on. He was like, "Hey, so go." He's like, "Where Ray at?" He's like, "Oh, I didn't see you. My hat's too low." And then he just he's just screaming. It is hilarious. So I go back to that, and then this one, Chris, I think you'll love this one. Julian Lane when he was on the Ultimate Fighter. Let me bang, bro. I do let you bang. Oh my God. To this day, I go back. Whenever I am sad, whenever I hit a low in my life, I go there. And it's funny because I forgot the dude's name, the blonde dude who's holding him. But every time he goes, let me bang, bro. And then every single time I just say with him, I do let you bang. And it's just the funniest thing ever, dog. But those are the 3 videos in my life.
Hey, real quick. Hey, I want to rename this show. I want to rename it ASAP's Rabbit Hole in the Morning.
The one video that I always watch, everyone remembers, is Randy Moss going straight cash, homie. When they asked how he paid for his parking ticket, like, you charge it, you write check. He's like, no, straight cash. Homie. I'm just sitting there, I'm like, I want to know how many wads of cash you just carry on you to just rip out.
You honestly, when I first saw that, in my mind, I just imagined him not even counting. Just like
taking out a big roll. I don't know what's here.
And just flinging him. Like, you get a roll. Like, every time I think of that, it's just...
I do have experience with that too, because his second go around when he was with the Vikings that second time, Minnesota Vikings stay at a hotel that's like 30 minutes away from Lambeau Field, which is like 5 minutes down from where I live. And they usually get to the hotel like Thursday night, Friday morning. So then they kind of go downtown like Friday night, Saturday night, like as a team before the game starts. He ends up walking into the bar that my friends and I were at with him and his like 2 bodyguards. And I forgot what happened. It was either the bartender or just somebody at the bar just like stood up and yelled, "Hey, straight cash, homie." And Randy's like, "Hey, watch this." Rips out a wad of cash, throws it on the bar, and he's like, "Here's an open bar tab. Everyone's on me." I'm just like, how much cash did you just throw on that bar?
So that's why. And the thing is like, because like there's been videos of him doing that. Like usually when athletes do it, they count it out and see, all right, how much I got. He got wads and he just flings it, and it's just like, all right, whoever catches it, catches it. I don't care. Like my dude was. I wish I was good at sports. I really do. But the last topic of the day, we're gonna head over to the NBA. I'm going to basically read you guys the standings from both the East and the West. We're gonna start with the East first, and I want you guys to tell me what surprised you so far. Like, which teams that you thought were gonna be horrible that ended up being contenders, and which contending teams having a drop off kind of surprised you. So
Why don't you just break my article that I wrote for ASAP, and then you can just go off of that?
Oh, you did one?
Yeah, I said how the Eastern Conference look now and how it's going to finish.
Damn. No. We're not doing that. It's just like who surprises you up to this
Yeah,
point.
the code ties into it, though, because a lot of the stuff that I put in it.
Well, if y'all go,
It's always about Dustin and his articles.
go to the
Listen,
website.
Dustin, it's not always about you. We want to talk too, damn it.
You can talk. You can read the article and you can talk. That's it.
So
That's your extra credit for missing the homework assignment.
That's right. Hey,
That
I
gets your
get it, man. I get it.
So in the Eastern Conference, Miami is the number 1 seed, and Chicago is the number 2 seed. They do have the same record. Just want to throw that out there.
Miami's got 2 wins in head-to-head. That's why they're
yes,
seeded
yep. They own the tiebreaker. Philly's 3rd. The Cavs are 4th. 5th is Milwaukee. 6th is the greatest basketball team on God's green earth, the glorious Boston Celtics. Don't poo on me. We're the 6th seed. I am happy about that. Let me have my moment, please. 7th, Toronto. 8th, Brooklyn. 9th, Charlotte. 10th, Atlanta. 11th, Washington. 12th, Knicks. 13th, Pacers. 14th, Pistons. And 15th, the Orlando Magic. So, Dustin, let me start with you. What surprises do you notice when we're talking about the Eastern Conference?
Cleveland stands out immediately just because nobody expected Cleveland to be in the position they're in right now. I think some people had them as a team that could possibly get into the play-in, but nobody had them as the 4th seed right now when you look at Colin Sexton being hurt and just some of the guys they use in their starting lineup. I don't think anyone expected them to be in the position they're in right now. Chicago, I think, is a surprise as to how good they are. A lot of people thought they would be a playoff team kind of in that 6 seed, 7 seed range just because they were in that playoff hunt for a majority of the year last year up until those final 2 weeks of the season, and then they added the pieces they added to kind of improve that roster, but I don't think anyone expected them to gel as quickly as they did this year. Brooklyn is a surprising disappointment, but when you consider that Irving can only play half of the games, and then Kevin Durant's out, you can kind of give him a little bit of a free pass because we've seen how good Brooklyn can be when Kevin Durant is healthy and when James Harden was actually playing and how good Brooklyn looked. Otherwise, I mean, Miami, I'm not surprised Miami's there, but I'm surprised they're the 1 seed just because they really take out Jimmy Butler. Miami really doesn't have a superstar on their team. It's just a bunch of guys that play very well together under Eric Spoelstra, who continues to show that he's one of the more underrated coaches in the NBA because he gets the most out of what he has. And every year they're going to be a tough out for everybody. Every year they play good defense. And every year they seem to make a deep run in the playoffs. And if you look at the rest of the Eastern Conference, Miami's got Jimmy Butler, who is their superstar. And nobody else you could really say is a superstar. You can say they have all-star caliber players, but not really that superstar. When you look at Brooklyn, they have 3 superstars. Chicago has 2 superstars this year. Plus, you could even say that Nikola Vucevic has been a perennial all-star, and he's played at a superstar level before. The Sixers have 2 superstars in Embiid and Harden. The Bucks have Giannis. I mean, all these other teams have, like, legitimate superstars, but then you have a team like Miami that just keeps doing what they do with what they have.
And I'll give some respect on Kyle Lowry's name.
I'll give this to pride. Boston has surprised me. I did not think Boston was going to be in the position. I figured Boston was going to be a playoff team, but I figured they would get in the play-in and then have to play their way into the playoffs. I did not expect Boston to get to where they are right now. I mean, that's a 9-game winning streak will help you, but Boston is still playing very well under a first-year head coach, and you got to give credit to that coach and kind of give credit to where they are.
I'm sorry, who was your surprise again?
Boston is in there.
It's hard being a winner. It's so hard. It's very taxing mentally, it's very hard.
God, here comes a Freddie rant.
No. There'll be no Freddie rant. If it was, it would be saying Boston's gonna win the championship, and I'm not going that far. Now I'm gonna root for my team, of course, but again, second round, that's my NBA Finals. Jay, Eastern Conference, what surprises you got for me?
Oh, Dustin not putting some respect on Kyle Lowry's name is kind of suspect to me, but that's okay. I think Kyle Lowry should get more respect for what he's done. He is an NBA champion after all.
I said he's an all-star. He's not a superstar.
I don't know. I think he should be a superstar.
He was.
I think he should be. Jeez Louise, man. No respect. You can't get no. I feel like there's a Rodney Dangerfield moment in there somewhere, but that's okay. Hey, listen, the whole Eastern Conference, or not the whole Eastern Conference, but definitely the playoff side of the Eastern Conference has been extremely surprising to me. I mean, a lot of it is. The fact that Milwaukee is sitting at number 5 when they were the NBA champions last year is surprising to me. The fact that Atlanta Hawks, who were in the playoffs last year, and they're not in the playoffs, is surprising to me. The fact that Cleveland, like you said, without, with the players that they got, I mean, they drafted Evan Mobley, great guy. They brought in free agent like a Levert. I mean, what they're doing, like you said, how they've gelled, how they're fighting the spirit, and what Bickerstaff is doing over there is surprising to me. I did not see Cleveland coming up like they have. And the fact that Brooklyn is down where they are is surprising to me at the A spot. But let's be honest, man. I mean, injuries have hurt that team. Chemistry has hurt that team. We still don't know how well Ben Simmons is going to fit in there because, we haven't seen him enough. I don't think we haven't seen him at all. So, I mean, I kind of Brooklyn.
Hey, you've seen him. You've seen him sitting on the sidelines.
Well, that's true. We have seen him on the sidelines.
Relax. Let's not disrespect Ben Simmons. Let's relax now.
Hey, that's Pride's dude. Hey, listen, you can only go so far, and Pride's going to get pissed.
Hey, that's my point guard.
That's my dude. That's my dude. But I do think, and the fact that the Celtics have had their long winning streak, I think what had like an 8 or 9 game winning streak. Celtics are heating up a little bit, but yeah, man, I think the biggest surprise for me is just the fact that Milwaukee, I expect more out of them. I expect them to be higher and not in the 5th seed for crying out loud, especially since you're coming off a playoff year. I mean, a championship year. So, for me, it's Milwaukee.
So far, two guys have put respect on the Boston Celtics. Chris, do me a favor, bro. Breathe the trifecta. What surprises are in the Eastern Conference?
The Cavs was a big surprise, which everybody's already said. I think they're another team, the Bulls. I think the Bulls are a big surprise. I know people expected them to be better, but I don't think anybody expect them to be as good as they have played, especially with all the injuries the Bulls have had this year as well. Other team was a big surprise for me was the Indiana Pacers because I didn't think they was going to suck as bad as they have this year. I thought we would be contenders, not maybe to win the East, but at least to be in the playoffs. And injuries, and then we end up blowing the team up. And I agree with Miami being a surprise too, just because they don't have that big star like Dustin was saying. It's more of a committee.
What about the Boston Celtics?
No, I'll give Boston some love because they are better than what I thought they would be. Especially earlier in the season, we were watching some of their games and we were.
It was rough. The beginning was rough. Whoa, it was rough. Now
they seem to turn it around. So
I say, listen, you stick with your team, you get bragging rights for life.
I think we're all in agreement that the Eastern Conference itself has been a big surprise because everyone from the 1 seed through the 8 seed are separated by like 6 games where legitimately anybody can get hot and overtake that 1 seed and anybody can get cold and fall back.
And I one up you from the 1 to the 10 seed.
I think it's 7.5.
Under 10 games.
Yeah, it's like 7.5 is the 10 seed is what they're.
That's it. Yeah, no. Well, right now it's 9.5.
9.5. Okay.
Yeah, the 8 seed, which is Brooklyn, is 7.
7.
You know what I mean? But like
anybody can get hot and anybody can get cold, and a team can go from 10 to 3 or 1 to 4.
Exactly. Like you know what I mean? Like one hot streak and all you can put yourself in favorable position. Obviously, we're gonna start with the Boston Celtics. We are a phenomenal organization. We're just phenomenal. We're great. You know. We're not talking about the fact that we're the 6th seed. We're not going to talk about that. Okay, just let me have my moment. Chris said it. The first half was rough. It was rough. All right. I just need a little bit of happiness. Derek White is now a top 3 player in the league. Don't at me. All right. Look, listen. The Celtics. What really surprised me about the Celtics was just the fact that the main problem was whenever we would lose one game, we would just all of a sudden be deflated. So like the next 2-3 games, we would play with very low energy, which ended up being the reason we ended up with get blowout, right? We would get blown out because we were playing horrible.
Didn't that happen against Chicago early in the year where you guys were like up 14
Yes.
in the third quarter and ended up losing by 4, and then all of a sudden the next 2 games you just look like complete dog crap because you were deflated?
Yeah, we looked dead in the water. That was the big problem we had this season. We're starting to turn it around. You know, like we're putting ourselves in a position where when we lose, okay, fine, but we're not overcoming. We're kind of letting it rock. We're learning what we did wrong, and we're now applying it to the next game so that way we don't lose, which I like. You know, I like the mentality change we're doing. You know, it makes me feel like we're improving somewhat. You know what I mean? Like I said, bro, it was rough in the beginning, bro. Started from the bottom, now we're here. We're not in the play-in, bro. This is it for me. This is it. I'm chilling, bro. I'm chilling. You don't understand, bro. Like, this is how bad it was this year, but when we're excited not being in the play-in, that's how you know it's been a rough year.
Yeah.
That's how you know it's been a rough year. It's been a rough year.
You know what, Pride? Earlier, I gave you a hard time. I said you were being mean to Damian Hernandez, but now that I've seen the last 3 or 4 comments from him, he just deserves all the hate.
No,
he
deserves
it, man. Damn.
That's not the one that I'm even mad about. It's the one that he said before.
About Harden?
That one. What has Harden done that he is?
That's what I'm saying. I'm like,
what did he do before getting to Brooklyn? Had 4 straight years averaging almost 34 points per game. Last time I checked, that's superstar numbers. If I correct me if I'm wrong on it, but
and that's what I'm saying. It's like Pride. You know what? Free reign. Do what you gotta
do. Again.
Do what you gotta do, man.
Well, listen, at the end of the day, I'm chilling. I'm calm. You feel me? Because at the end of the day, guess what? Us, me, Jason Tatum, Jaylen Brown. I invited Derek White. He said he was too busy, so we popped up at his house. He really was busy. I had to apologize, but we're living our best life.
Hey, you got Daniel Tice back. Daniel Tice was a good fit for you.
The sad part about it is I would have been excited about that, but we got Derek White. So listen, I love Daniel Tice. That's my dude. He know I got love for him. I called him. I said, welcome back. He said, thank you. I wish I never left. I said, you know what? We ain't gonna talk about the past. You know what I mean? Because I'll be immature for us to do it. We can't change the past.
I wish Chicago still had Daniel Tice.
Yeah.
Well, you know what? Y'all messed up. And he came back. He came back. Yeah. But listen, this is one surprise that I love that I'm going to fry at the entire NBA community. What happened to the Wizards? They were the one team.
They started out. They were hot when they first came in.
They were the one team for a whole week, and I told the world, holla at me about All-Star break. I made a vow. I made a pact. I made a promise. By the All-Star break, they won't even be in the play-in.
I mean, they traded for the greatest thing since sliced bread by acquiring Kristaps Porzingis. So hey,
I just think it's hilarious. I think it's adorable. That the Washington Wizards, who was, they were the number 1 team, they were supposed to be legit. They were supposed to be a threat. And I told the world, look, man, when you start playing with pressure, when the expectations are there, this team will not rise. Well, I told people.
You could argue that their season is like a 180 from last year, because if you look at last year, they got off to such a terrible start. But then after the All-Star break, they went like 15-4 over that 19-game stretch and ended up playing themselves into the play-in because of that streak. This year, they actually got off to a decent start, but now they've gone the opposite way. They've gone in a tailspin and knocked themselves out.
It just surprised me that people actually had high expectations for them. It really does. It really blows my mind. Like, again, I like Bradley Beal, but outside of that, who's your next best player?
Porzingis. Now you traded away Dinwiddie, who was your second best player.
Right. And even then, at the same time, they wouldn't really showcase Dinwiddie because you know who they would try to showcase more? Kyle Kuzma.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Let me know how that works out.
Is it wrong to say that I didn't have high expectations for the Wizards? I just had higher expectations because of how they finished last year?
No, that's horrible. Well, in my opinion, and the reason is, well, first and foremost, I had no faith whatsoever in Washington. Period. I said last year, if they make the play, they're getting bounced, and there's still people out there that go, "Oh my God, they were in the play, and that's a great year." Again, not really, but again, teach their own, whatever. But when you listen, I told this, when you bring Kyle Kuzma in your locker room, you're not doing shit. That is just a fact of the matter. When you bring Kyle Kuzma, the kid is more of a detriment than anything else. Okay? LeBron had to turn back the hands of time to win with Kyle Kuzma, and AD had to play 10 times better than prime AD. He had to. Just for the Lakers to beat the Heat in 6. So,
I mean, when Daniel Gafford is your starting center, that's kind of an issue too.
I mean, yeah, but honestly, Daniel Gafford is way better than Kyle Kuzma, and I don't even think it's close.
I don't like Gafford.
But I just want to get that right out the way. Chicago, definitely. And it's for a lot of the points that Chris touched on. Not only did, people were really high on the acquisition of DeMar DeRozan, but not only that, after everything the Bulls have went through, every player has missed at least 10 games. And for them to be tied for the number ones or in the second seed with a tied record, you can't complain about that.
Do you think if Stephen A. Smith and all these experts could go back on it, they would say the Bulls won the offseason with that DeRozan acquisition, as opposed to saying that Chicago made the biggest mistake by bringing him in?
No. I don't think so. Because listen, and I'll be honest, I did not think that this trade was going to be that, the acquisition was going to be great. I didn't think it was going to be garbage. I thought with everything, I thought you guys were going to be like the 4th or 5th seed.
And technically, we still could, depending on how the rest of the East plays out.
Right, but I never saw you guys in contention for the number 1 seed.
Oh, no.
At all. You know what I mean? And you guys did great, but then again, now we're not allowed to talk about Chicago because we got to stop pretending like they did anything. Some people just shouldn't be talking sports. The Western Conference, the Phoenix Suns are number 1, Golden State number 2, Grizzlies 3, Jazz 4, Dallas 5, Nuggets 6, T-Wolves 7, Clippers 8, Lakers 9, Portland 10th, Spurs 11th, Pelicans 12th, Kings 13th, 14th is the Thunder, and 15th is the Houston Rockets. Jay, what surprises you got for me in the Western Conference?
Yeah, the surprise for me, obviously, is I guess I don't know if it's really a surprise, but I mean, because I guess we kind of all speculated at the beginning of the season was just how far down, the Lakers have fallen. In terms of so it surprises me a lot is really just the play of Memphis and John Morant, man. I mean, just God, man, they're playing. It's just at such a high level, man. I mean, I really am looking forward to the playoffs because I think between those 3 teams, between Memphis, Golden State, and Phoenix, it's going to be a hell of a battle going out, man. I mean, those dudes are going to be fighting, and obviously Phoenix. The play of Chris Paul and how well he's doing there, Phoenix is just looking. I mean, the fact that they were the first team to 30 wins, and I think they still had the best record. I mean, that's just phenomenal. I mean, I expected them to be good, but I didn't expect them to be this good. And they're really looking. They're looking pretty sharp.
They really are. I do like how they're looking. So I do like that one, Chris. For the Western Conference, what surprises you got?
The Memphis Grizzlies. No, I don't think anybody expected them to be where they're at. And John Morant. I don't think everybody thought John Morant was good, but I don't think they expect him to be playing at this level this quick. I mean, he's put that team on his back, and the Lakers. I didn't think they were. When I saw the construction of the team, I didn't personally expect them to go deep in the playoffs. But with having LeBron, everybody expected them to go deep in the playoffs, and they might not even make the playoffs. So I would say they were a surprise. I think the Timberwolves are kind of a surprise too. They've been playing good ball here as of late.
I mean, look, nobody expected Minnesota to even forget the play-in. You know what I mean? But now they're in the 7th seed, only 2.5 back from the 6th, from that 6th spot. So.
And I think you have to say the Warriors are a bit of a surprise too. Uh,
So?
said no.
No. I'm asking. Do you really think so?
I think a little bit. I think people thought they'd be better this year, but the way they started the season,
Okay.
the way they started the season now without Klay Thompson and some of them younger players that stepped up, I think that was a little bit of a surprise. Oh, Jordan Poole's playing amazing. He's been playing outstanding this season.
Yeah, no, I like Jordan Poole. I like him a lot. I really do. For me, the Clippers are really surprising for me.
Yeah, that's one I forgot.
And I'm gonna tell you why, because I see you laughing, Jay. But think about it. Their two best players are out.
Yeah.
And they're in the A seed.
Yeah. And one of them is probably out. I think Kawhi is out, and definitely
he's not coming back. He's not coming back.
They might get Paul George back, but Kawhi's definitely
that's a question mark. That's a question mark. But you do that, so that's kind of, that's interesting for me. Minnesota, that right there is a big surprise. Because again, let's be honest, nobody thought at all that the Timberwolves would even be in the play-in.
I did.
You did?
I mean, you have Karl Anthony Towns, a legitimate top 5 big man. Mm-hmm. You have Anthony Edwards, who's proving that he should have been the number 1 pick when he got taken number 1. D'Angelo Russell has always been overlooked. He was very good when he was with Golden State. And he finally got the recognition he deserved when he went to Golden State because he finally got to a team that was in the national spotlight to see how good he was. Mm-hmm. So Minnesota has a good 3-player core right there that they can build around.
I do think so. But I always thought, let's be honest, they always had a big 3 in some aspect, or at least some semblance of it. And they never did anything.
In the playoffs 2 years ago when Thibodeau was their coach, I think they only missed it by 1 game. And that was before the play-in was created. I think they ended up with the 9th seed that year, and they were only 1 game out because I think they finished like 40-42. So they were close a couple of years ago to getting in. It was just a matter of getting the right coach, and then the coach they had last year was just terrible and had no business being the head coach. So they kind of took a step back last year. But I thought they had a shot to get in the play-in. I didn't think they'd be the 7th seed, but I thought they could get into the play-in this year.
Yeah, I didn't think so. I'll be honest, I didn't think so at all.
I think Dallas has surprised me a lot this year. I didn't think Dallas would be in the position they would be in, especially when it's basically been Luka or nobody this year because Porzingis has been hurt most of the time. He's been hurt more than he's been healthy. Trey Burke has had a good, or not Trey Burke, Jalen Brunson has had a great year playing alongside Doncic, and now you give them Dinwiddie. I mean, that team's going to get better. Memphis is the biggest surprise in the Western Conference by far, just because it's Ja Morant and Jaren Jackson. But who else is a star on that team? Again, similar situation to Miami. A bunch of players that just know how to play very well together, and they're just kind of capitalizing on one superstar, and then everybody else just knows their role and fills in well. But you still have to say the Lakers are the biggest surprise in the Western Conference, and it's for the sole purpose that they have LeBron James. When was the last time you saw a LeBron James team struggle as much as it has? Regardless of injuries, regardless of anything, LeBron James typically always has his team in the playoffs, no matter if he has help or not. So the fact that they're where they are, that shows you that LeBron, like you said many times, the days of LeBron carrying a team are over. And he's done that so many times in his career. Like you can go back to his days in Cleveland. Mo Williams, Zydrunas Ilgauskas, Anderson Varejao, and LeBron James, and they ended up winning 56 games that year and got to the NBA Finals when it was him and nobody else. So the fact that the Lakers are on the play-in right now and on the verge of being out of the play-in has got to be a huge surprise because anytime LeBron is on your team, you should be in the playoffs. Regardless who's hurt and regardless who's on your roster, you should be in the playoffs with LeBron on your team.
Yeah, honestly, I kind of echo your sentiments slightly because, again, I thought the Lakers were going to be out in the first round.
Well, I thought they'd be out. I thought they would be out in the first round, but I still expected them to be in the top 4 seed.
Well, okay, I didn't expect that at all.
I figured they'd be like 4 or 5.
Nope, I didn't expect that. I expected them to be like the 8th seed. What I did not expect is them be on the verge of falling out of the play-in.
Yeah.
I never expected that at all.
Because I think at the beginning of the year, I had Golden State finishing in the 1 seed. just because last year I said they had a free pass to basically suck because they
Right.
knew Thompson wasn't coming back. They knew Curry was hurt. So at that point, they just kind of said, screw it. We'll just
What
not-
they did last year, what no one really pays attention to, they basically played their youngsters and found out,
who
okay,
they-
based on their play style, who would
works with
fit
us and who
well,
doesn't work with us.
which is why Jordan Poole right now is getting as many minutes as opportunities as he's gotten, because last year when he was hooping, they were like, this kid could fit with them. This kid could do something, which is what a smart team would do. If it's a lost cause, it is what it is. But let's see what we got, and let's see who can fit with our main stars when they come back. So that way, instead of hoping we have someone, we already have the answer. So then come off season, if we need to make any moves, anything like that, we know what we need to get.
Hey, I'm gonna give you a hot take. I got a hot take. And Dustin, Dustin, watch this. You ready to see a rabbit hole emerge? I'm about to open up the biggest rabbit hole you ever saw in your life. It's almost, I would say, it's almost bigger than the Grand Canyon. That's how big this rabbit hole is.
I live in Wisconsin. We got massive rabbit holes here.
Hey, that's true. Well, you about to see a huge rabbit hole, and you about to see Pride get so pissed, and you about to see veins popping out the side of Pride's face. Here it goes. You ready for my hot take? Pride. Do your warm-ups, Pride. You can't get mad without doing your warm-ups because I don't want you tearing a tendon or a rotator cuff or something like that. So do your warm-ups, Pride. Here it comes.
ASAP Network is not responsible for the actions of Pride after this comment.
Hey, here it comes. You ready for it? Hey, Chris, you ready for it? You ready, Chris? You ready? Did you do your warm-ups? Okay, here it goes. The GOAT, if you're the GOAT, doesn't do play-in. Let that sink in for a minute. If you're the GOAT, why are you doing a play-in? Let that marinate. Let it marinate. Let it marinate now.
I'll give you a few reasons. Well, first of all, the play-in is now, right? Now, MJ in his career, he would have been in the play-in if it was invented when he was playing. So, I mean, he still would have been in there. That's one. Two, this is how I know that you, Rob, Freddie, everybody actually believes LeBron's the GOAT. And I'm going to explain why. When Michael
Here, I told you there's going to be a rabbit hole. Here we go.
No. I'm going to say this real quick. I'm going to let it simmer and then y'all do what y'all want. When Michael Jordan was struggling early in his career, he was hooping, but his team wasn't good. That was the excuse, right? Okay. When he went to the Wizards, it's because he was older, right?
That's true. I think he was damn near 40 at that
39.
point.
So
where was he? How 39?
39.
Yeah, like I said, damn near 40.
So, isn't it funny how LeBron has played more years, more minutes, and more games, yet at this stage of his career, we hold him to the prime LeBron standards? Think about it. Every all-time great.
And yet he fails that standard.
Hold on. Kareem Abdul-Jabbar, Kobe Bryant, Michael Jordan, Larry Bird, Isaiah Thomas, Joe Dumars, Scottie Pippen, Tim Duncan, David Robinson. You name anyone, there's always an excuse to whatever they've done. Always.
What's the excuse for MJ? MJ has been great. What's MJ? What's his excuse?
I'll let you speak your piece.
Oh, I'm bad.
Yeah, it's okay. I'll let you speak your piece. It's funny how all of them, it's okay for them to have their failures. Yet LeBron James is the only player, and I don't care what anyone says, because it would be impossible to fact check me. LeBron James is the only player in the history of the NBA whose expectations, whose bar, and what was demanded of him was perfection.
And honestly, by you saying that, that is exactly why I don't think he will win another MVP because of you saying that. Because he's this is 17th year now, right?
God, I don't know. Bron's been in the game a hot minute. I thought it was 18. Is it 17?
2003. Yeah, 2003.
Yeah, I thought it was 18.
So at 18 years in the league, he had a great rookie season, but his rookie season was still the worst year he's ever had. And he still wasn't bad. He averaged like 22 points a game as a rookie.
Right.
But take away his rookie season, the type of numbers that he's putting up right now, he's put up for 17 years. So the numbers that he is putting up are the numbers everyone expects him to put up. So anything less than what he's doing at this point is going to be considered a down season.
Down year.
Even at 25 points, 8 rebounds, and 7 assists at 39 years old, that's a heck of a year, but that's going to be considered a down year for LeBron if he does that. So the fact that he's had this standard for as long as he's had it is the reason why I don't think he's going to win another MVP, because now it's getting to the point where he's just performing at the level that he's always performed. Then you have guys like Jokic, who has always been a good center, but the last 2 years he's taken his game to a completely different level that nobody's seen out of a center in quite some time. Same thing with Giannis. Giannis took 3 or 4 years to kind of develop into the Giannis that he's turned into. But now that he's done that, everyone is going to expect Giannis to put up the numbers that he's put up the last 3 years. And if he doesn't, it's going to be considered a down season.
And that's why I'm saying, like, for LeBron, like, again, nobody in the history of the NBA, nobody's standard has been perfection. Nobody. Because every single time something happens, there's always an excuse. Always. Yet for LeBron, he doesn't get that. So let this sink in. If we're talking about the greatest of all time, right? That bar is pretty high, right? Like, it's got to be a high bar, because in order for you to be the GOAT, you got to be head and shoulders above the rest, correct? Now,
I still put him number 2, but I put him at the GOAT. I put him at the GOAT of this generation, but I still put him number 2.
And that's fine. But all I'm saying is this: if you're supposed to be head and shoulders above the rest, the bar that everyone wants to strive for is perfection, correct? Mm-hmm. That's what we all strive for, right? Why is it that our expectations, our standard of him is perfection, and that's never happened to anybody else in the history of the NBA?
Because that's what he expects out of himself.
MJ expected perfection out of himself.
I know.
So did Magic. But that's what I'm saying. Like, there's other players who's expected perfection out of themselves, and nobody really holds it against them. Yet for LeBron, again, if we put LeBron, if he's not perfect, then he's trash.
Yeah. I would never say LeBron's trash.
I think the thing going against LeBron, and it's not his fault, is his finals record. Michael Jordan was 6-0 in the finals. LeBron is what, 4-6?
Yes.
Something like that.
Yeah.
If he had a better finals record,
of course,
I don't think anyone would be like looking at LeBron this way, like in terms of perfection.
I don't think it's so much as that. I think it's just the amount of clutch shots that Jordan did in the playoffs.
But again,
was phenomenal. And the way Jordan could take a ball and go one way with the player, and then have that player damn near break his ankles because he came back the other direction, only to come back to the original way that he was going to do and score, is ridiculous. I'm going to tell you right now, and I said this earlier. I said this, I believe it was on Unscripted with Mike Hughes. If Michael Jordan was playing with LeBron and both players in their primes, Michael Jordan would break LeBron's ankles. Break them.
I don't think he would.
He would break them. And if you don't think that, you ain't watching the sports either, Pride. Because I think Jordan do things that would break his ankles.
No. Michael Jordan, like, we need to stop this notion.
I don't think Jordan would break his ankles.
Oh, he would absolutely break his ankle.
Phenomenal dribble. He's got good dribble, but
the only advantage I think Michael Jordan would have is the league is a lot softer now. So a lot of the calls that Michael Jordan wasn't getting back then, he would get now.
And that's where I think Pride is at a disadvantage. I've seen Jordan play. I've seen LeBron play. I've seen all their highlights. I'm telling you, man, Pride wasn't there when Jordan was doing Jordan-like moves. The way he can fake you out, the way he can go 3 different directions and have you looking stupid is crazy.
He doesn't do. What you're mistaking is his aerial acrobatics, which was phenomenal.
No, I'm talking about when he's on the floor. When he's on the damn floor.
No.
Maybe what I saw in the playoffs, maybe what I saw in the season was wrong. Maybe my eyes didn't see it.
Jay, if you watched Michael Jordan, he always telegraphed what he did.
I get it, but not everything was telegraphed.
But
Not everything was. Not everything was.
Like if you watch when he had the ball, he would drop his left shoulder twice. That would mean he's driving to the right. He would get the ball, drop his left shoulder once. That means he would go to the left. He always telegraphed what he was going to do, but the problem is the defense didn't want to get beaten by him, so they tried to react before he put the ball on the floor, and that's kind of when he made his advantage. He sees him leaning to the right, he would quick go to the left, or he sees him leaning to the left, he would quick go to the right. But if the defense was smart, they would have realized that he was telegraphing everything he did in isolation ball, because he always would do the same thing with his shoulders when he was going a certain way.
But his ability to improv and his ability to go left or right on you within a shake of a heartbeat was what made Jordan Jordan. I'm telling you, I guarantee he'd break LeBron's ankles, man.
No, he would.
I'm telling you, he would. Pride, he would, man.
No, he wouldn't. No, he wouldn't. He doesn't have great handles. Now, he's got solid handles. I'm not gonna say he gets ripped.
He's a great dribbler, but he's not a great handler, if that makes sense.
Yes, exactly. Like he's got nice security. So when he's dribbling the ball, it's not like you're gonna swipe it easily.
Like he's got
moves that's gonna break people's ankles. Come on, man, stop.
He's not like a Stephen Curry when it comes to
handling. Not even close. Not even close. Hey, listen, he didn't even have the best handles in his own generation when he supposedly ruled. Because you got people saying John
did rule. No, it wasn't supposed. Now, Pride, it was supposedly ruled. He ruled.
No, it's supposedly.
It's not supposedly. There's no supposedly about. He's 6-0. He's 6-0 in the playoffs. How is that not ruling it?
I'm gonna answer it right now. How many years did he play? Because
I don't know. He took that sabbatical for a hot minute.
Because on his watch, the Lakers won rings. On his watch, the Celtics won rings. On his watch, the Detroit Pistons won rings.
The funny thing is that, to me, what Jay just said is going to be the biggest mystery in the history of sports. You had a three-peat, you leave, you come back, and you have another three-peat. Had he not gone to play baseball, how many titles in a row could the Bulls have won? Could they have gone a perfect 9 for 9 in that window? Could they have gone 8 for? Could they have gone 8 for 8 in that window?
I think so.
Of all the things that have happened in sports, like you watch The Last Dance, you watch everything. To me, that is still the biggest mystery in sports, because Michael Jordan left in the middle of his prime, and then came back still in his prime. It's not like he
left again. And when he retired, he was still playing at a high level.
It's not like he was like 36 years old and kind of getting out of his prime and then wanting to try something different. He left at 29, 30 years old?
Yeah.
Middle of his prime to try something that was his first love, realized he couldn't do it, and then came back still in his prime. And that had he not played baseball, I think the Bulls could have gone 8 for 8 or 9 for 9 in that window, because that same exact team still made the playoffs without Michael Jordan, and they still got to the second round without Michael Jordan the years that he was playing baseball. So it's not like the team fell off greatly without him being there.
And I think it was 15 years total. If you include the Washington years, it was 15 years altogether.
It was 13 with Chicago and then 2 with Washington.
He won 6 rings, right? He won 6 rings. Just saying. You can't say he dominated when on his.
No, I think you probably didn't hear what Stat Guy just told you. If he had not left, he probably would have had 9. And who was going to beat them?
No.
Who was going to beat them? Who?
Because no. Hold on. Stop.
No, I'm not.
You're not going to give him those.
Who's going to beat him?
Stop. You're not going to give him those rings. Is it possible?
Sure. You're right.
It's also possible that he will lose all of them.
He could have lost in there. He could have lost.
Hey, watch this. You got a three-peat, 2 years in the middle. You're going to tell me the 2 years in the middle would have – I don't know, man. Hey, listen, I watched them teams. I watched them, right?
So by your logic – okay, fine. So let's go by your logic. If that first year when LeBron James and Cleveland Cavaliers played Golden State, if Kevin Love and Kyrie don't get hurt, he would have won. So we're going to give him that ring. Let's see, what other ring can we give him? The first year in Dallas, if he'd taken more shots, they would have won. So we're going to give him that one. So now we're going to add 2 more rings to his overall record. That brings him up to 6. So now he's the GOAT. That's what you just did. Now again,
I don't know. That to me, that doesn't sound like the same thing. That doesn't sound like the same thing to me.
Chris,
that doesn't sound like the same thing.
Isn't it the same thing?
Yeah.
It doesn't sound like the same thing.
And again, I don't know if Jordan could have done it.
No, yeah, the difference is the finals losses. Yes, if you give LeBron those 2 rings, he has 6, but then he still has 4 finals losses, as opposed to Jordan has that 0 in the finals losses category. Yeah, and like you said, he could have went to 2 more finals. He could have lost them both. Could have lost 1. He could have won them both. 6-2 is still what, a 750 winning percentage in the finals, which is better than 6-4, which is 600. But if he went 8-0, there would be no debates on who the greatest player of all time would be if he went 8-0. If he went 8-0 and if he went 8-0 in a final, I don't care what LeBron James would do, you would have no leg to stand on to say that he's the greatest player ever, besides just looking at the statistics and saying he's the all-time leading scorer. He's top 5 in rebound. He's top 5 in assists. He did this and this and this. But the reality is he still lost 4 NBA finals or 6 NBA finals where he is now. And that alone is going to carry a lot of weight to determine who the greatest of all time is.
Right.
That's the only thing that I love Michael Jordan. I still do. I followed him growing up, and it's going to be very hard for me to put anybody better than him. LeBron will be the closest one that can get to that level. And that's the one thing that's always upset me about Jordan was, why would you leave to play?
Oh, I agree. It upset me too. I grew up in that era
to do what they were doing.
It upset me too because hey, listen, when you're winning every single time, it does upset you.
Can I ask a question real quick? When Michael Jordan left, can anyone refresh my memory? Because I'm dumb. Who was the Chicago Bulls head coach?
It was Phil Jackson.
So Phil Jackson was still the head coach after he left?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Are you sure about that?
Is there another? No, it was Phil Jackson.
Are you sure about that?
Phil Jackson left for a year and came back. I'm trying to think of who was.
So he left, right?
Yeah, he left for a year and came back.
And that year,
I thought he was still there. Maybe I'm wrong.
And that year Phil came back. That was the same year MJ just so happened to come back, correct?
Yeah, I'm trying to hold on. I'm gonna look at to see who that coach was. He was only.
Dude tells you the dude came out and said, "If Phil's not here, I'm not gonna be here." Yeah. Phil leaves.
Okay.
He leaves.
So you like this coach?
Year, MJ leaves.
Actually, no. Phil Jackson was there the whole time. He was there 1989 to 1998.
I didn't think he left. That's why I was like, "What the fuck are you talking about?"
Tim Floyd came in, and then Tim Floyd came in the year after the Bulls had their second three-peat, because that was the year that Phil Jackson left for LA, yeah. And then Michael Jordan left Chicago too, because he said he wasn't going to stay if Phil wasn't coming back.
Because I'm pretty sure I lived through every single one of those years.
During that 9-year window, Phil Jackson was there the entire time. He was 545 and 193 during that 9-year stretch. And he made the playoffs the 2 years that Jordan was gone, got to the second round once, and the Bulls lost the first round the other time. So, I mean, he was still good enough to get them into the playoffs when Jordan left. They just didn't have that Michael Jordan player those 2 years.
And let's be honest, to Pride's point, we don't know what would, and your point too, we don't know what happened those 2 years. But what I do know is this: watch this. If I'm a betting man, if I'm playing law of averages, if I believe in Murphy's law, if I got a three-peat followed by nothing for 2 years and then another three-peat, I'm just saying. I'm not saying that they would have won those 2 years.
I'm taking my chances.
But I'm gonna tell you right now, if I'm a betting man, I'm putting my money on Jordan during those 2 years. And I'm pretty sure
that's why
I'm going to walk away with the cash.
That's why I say I want to see it, because that would have been equivalent.
And I know, and that's what it is. That's what's frustrating. It is. It's frustrating because, man, I mean, God. And it's frustrating, but it's not frustrating because that was the 2 years of my Houston Rockets did get our 2 championships, yeah. So I can't be all that mad. But here's the deal: when he came back in that second three-peat, the Rockets actually had their own super team. They had Drexler. They had it was Pippen, Barkley, and Olajuwon, and they still couldn't beat him.
And the thing is, had he won 8 championships in a row, that would have been equivalent to what UCLA did in the NCAA when they won their 7.
Right.
But that would have been something that would have never, ever happened again in the NBA. Ever.
And let's be honest. If you look at the level of competition that Jordan went up against, because Pride said it wasn't that great, I can't imagine a better duo than Hornacek, or I should say John Stockton, Karl Malone, and Hornacek, and Greg. I don't know, Greg Ostertag was there at that time.
And you had Bill Russell, who was one of the best defenders in the NBA that year, who Michael Jordan hit his final shot over.
I'm telling. Listen, that there was great competition during those years. It was great competition. It wasn't like
you had Reggie Miller and Chris Mullen for the Pacers.
Hell yeah, you had, and he also had the Seattle SuperSonics playing good with Gary Payton.
Kemp and Payton over there, and then the Knicks had Patrick Ewing, Allen Houston, Sprewell, and all those guys.
And like I said, you don't get the ticky-tack fouls like they get today.
No.
There was you had to earn your fouls back in those days.
Yes, you did.
All right, yeah. So MJ took his bonds with him his second retirement. That's when he said that he didn't.
Yeah,
that he didn't
that was
want
the year
to
that
play,
Tim. That was the
where it
year
was
that
too
Tim
hard
Floyd
for him
came in.
without Phil Jackson.
Because that's the year that Phil Jackson's contract was expired.
Yeah, because they gave him 1 year, and then Krause was like, "Yo, if you go 82."
Hey, Pride, I'm gonna need an apology
They told
for
him it didn't
that.
matter
I
what-
need an apology.
what they done that season. He was leaving.
I need an
I'm
apology
still
for Pride.
though. I'm still.
I need an apology for Pride for talking about how confident he was that Phil Jackson wasn't there the whole time. Pride, I will wait for my apology, and I'm probably going to die holding my breath. I know that already as a fact, but I don't have that much longer to live anyway. I'm 50 and I'm almost dead.
What does it say? The highlighter. What does it say?
I can't read that. I don't have my bifocals on.
Michael Jordan made it clear that he didn't want to play for another coach.
Yeah, and that's exactly right. I agree.
Which is why he left for Washington, because the Bulls did not extend Jackson after that 98 season, which
was dumb on their part. They should have extended him.
And they told Jackson before the season that they weren't going to extend him.
Yeah, they did. I remember that. I remember when it happened when they said that. And I was like, how do you not – you just come off a three-peat. How do you not extend him? That don't even make sense.
Well, that's easy because at the time they felt like Phil didn't do anything. That was their logic. They felt like Phil didn't do anything.
No, I wouldn't say that. I mean, a coach is still a coach. A coach has to manage a team.
No, that's how they felt.
That's what they felt. They felt like they could put a new coach in, and everything was going to be the same.
Kind of like what Jerry Jones did when he got rid of Jimmy Johnson and put in Barry Switzer. In his mind, it was like, it don't matter who the coach is. It's the players I have that makes the difference.
Right.
And the Chicago Bulls kind of had that same mentality. Now, the end result is basically the same.
Right.
Where you kind of do realize that the head coach you had was, well, a little lesser to an extent, because if I'm not mistaken, I'm pretty sure they still won a couple rings with Barry Switzer. If I'm mistaken, I think
they won one ring with Barry Switzer.
They won one, right? Yeah, I don't think they didn't go under 500 until his final year.
Right.
Which I think was his only year ever, collegiate and pro, that he ever was under 500.
Right.
So, like, for Dallas, it kind of, it worked out a little bit in their favor because they still ended up getting a chip. It was still relatively, they were still relevant up until that final year, But, with Chicago, it was different. They felt like they didn't need Phil, which is dumb. Because at the time, everybody was like, yo, Phil knows what he's doing.
I think it was
right.
Krause didn't feel like he was getting the credit he thought he deserved.
Mm-hmm.
I think that's the whole reason he wanted to get Phil out there and bring in a new coach.
And the sad part is, it wasn't just that they let Phil Jackson go. It's the fact that after Michael Jordan left, they blew it all up. Like, they didn't try to keep Pippen.
They traded Scottie to Houston.
Yeah, they didn't try to keep Pippen. They didn't try to keep Rodman. They didn't try to keep Kerr. It's just like, oh, well, Phil left, Michael left. Screw it. Let's just blow up what we have. And it's just like, you still had a playoff caliber roster. Like,
by the way, my hot take was calculated. Pride looked very sad over there. He looked like he was almost about to fall asleep. So I had to wake Pride up, and I knew that if I said that, Pride was going to be all about it, and it was going to be energetic, and it was going to be popping. It was going to be spicy. It was going to be a spicy version of Pride.
I'm good. This is something we're going to talk about tomorrow. New York, they're going to get rid of the vaccine mandate, so Kyrie's going to end up being cleared.
That's interesting.
Which is why in the article that I typed up the other day, I had the Nets going from the 8th seed up to the 5 or the 6th seed, just because Durant was going to come back at some point. And I did not think New York was going to keep this mandate because it's a minimal fine. It's $10,000 a game. That's nothing for that organization.
But there's got to be something else, though.
There's nothing. I looked it up. There's nothing attached.
There's not?
To it. No, it's just they would have to pay $10,000 a game if they played him.
Man,
the only negative effect it would be is just it's a bad look on the NBA that the NBA allowed them to do it. Basically, that's the only reason why Brooklyn really didn't do it, just because it's a bad look on the league. Basically, saying that yes, we have a state vaccine mandate, but we're just kind of showing that athletes are more powerful than everybody else by.
I'm about to
letting
say,
him
you
go
know, you're
against
pretty
mandate.
powerful if you can get rid of a vaccine mandate. That's got to tell you how powerful something is, man. That's
No,
crazy.
it's because we know the reason. I'm not going to say nothing. And it goes all the way back to high school sports now, where I live in high school sports everywhere. And you know what it is.
Yeah.
Sports is king.
Yeah.
People want sports to win, and everybody wants a winner. And New York knows that the Nets have the capability to win it. So they're willing to just be like, screw the mandate, let Irving play, let Durant come back, and let's see what we can do. Basically, at this point.
Yeah, and like I said, we'll go into more
That's
detail.
that's believable. That is believable.
Because the New York Knicks aren't going anywhere.
Oh hell no.
The Giants and Jets aren't going to do anything for, I don't know, whatever. The Mets haven't done anything in 30 years. The Yankees have won World Series in the last 25 years. Realistically, the only chance that the city of New York has to win is with Brooklyn right now.
Right.
So why make it more difficult? Why not just get rid of the mandate? Let Irving play, let Durant get healthy, and see if they can go from the 8th seed up to the 5 seed. Because I don't care what anybody says. When Durant comes back, and if Ben Simmons even plays close to what he did in Philadelphia, there's not going to be a team in the Eastern Conference that wants to play Brooklyn. Whether they're the 8th seed, the 5 seed, the 6th seed, whatever, there's not going to be a team that wants to face Brooklyn for 7 games.
Has Ben Simmons? Have they said when Ben Simmons is going to start playing?
He's going to be ready for the playoffs for sure, but it's a matter of, is he going to be ready to play at all in the regular season?
He is.
I think he needs to play some.
I don't see
games.
him playing. I don't see him playing until April.
Is his psychological well-being that big of a
It's not.
I think it's a combination of that, but also, you know what I really think it is? I think it's a calculated move on Brooklyn.
Yeah.
I think they're just waiting.
They don't want to tip their hand.
Yeah,
No,
how are you going to prepare for him?
This is their mindset. Look, if we put Ben Simmons out there, who knows? We're probably still going to end up losing. When we have all 3 of them out there, it's going to be hard to beat us. Now again,
he won't play until April, but that still gives him 10 or 11 games in April to get ready for the playoffs. So basically 2-3 weeks.
And again, and listen, and this is what this Brooklyn Big 3, each of them do something different.
Mm-hmm.
So it'll be a little easier for them to kind of get incorporated with each other, because
And this was not Ben Simmons' idea either.
Nope.
This is Steve Nash's idea.
Yep.
This is Steve Nash basically not wanting to tip his hand. Be like, we have Ben Simmons, but why show teams what we can be now when we can wait until the playoffs and they don't have time to prepare for it?
He's gonna have to play some games though.
He'll play like 10. I see him playing the final 10, which is basically the month of April, which gives you 3 weeks to pretty much prep yourself and get ready.
Yeah, he's gonna have to, because a full year off,
bro.
I'm still going for him finals MVP.
You could argue more than that.
his game conditioning, everything's got to be.
You could argue he's had more than a full year off, because wasn't he hurt last year too? And missing I thought he missed time during the second half last year because he was hurt.
No, I don't think so.
I thought he only played like 50 some games last year.
Maybe even if he did, he played the playoffs. So that's what I kind of think.
But I thought from February through April, he missed a large chunk of games.
Let's say if he ended up doing that and then missing a full year, yeah,
that's rough.
You gonna have to get back on that court
hell yeah.
Because the thing is, imagine if you're trying to get him in game shape in the playoffs. Yes,
he's probably in game shape right now. I think it's just more of a matter of I don't know if he's shooting. I don't know what he's doing, but conditioning wise, he's probably running. Last year he only played he played 81 games in 2017, 79 games in 2018, and then he played 57 games in 2019, but obviously COVID, so he played 57 out of 61 or whatever. Right. But last year he only played in 56 games. So he missed 26 games last year, and a large portion of that was right around the All-Star break and after the All-Star break. So he went into the playoffs last year basically out of basketball shape because he missed a month.
Maybe. Listen, we're going to talk about that more tomorrow, because
that's going to be interesting.
I got a conspiracy theory.
Oh.
I got a conspiracy theory.
So what? I guess before we sign off, since we just brought that up with Ben Simmons, What do you do if you're the Chicago Bulls at this point? Because Lonzo Ball, Alex Caruso, and Patrick Williams are all supposed to be back by around March 10th. Do you stick with the starting lineup that you have right now that's been winning games and kind of integrate those three back into the lineup so you don't really tip your hand? Or do you want to get all three in the position you want them now and just see if you can win the East with what you have?
Lonzo starts, Caruso and Patrick Williams off the bench.
So you want to take Ayo out? Ayo's been playing.
Ayo's been playing.
But here's the thing.
Ayo, however you say his name. He's been playing good.
I would have him come off the bench, give him still valuable minutes. The problem with that is there's going to be an odd man out.
I think the odd man out is going to be Javonte Green.
Which it's unfortunate.
Because Javonte Green's played well, and I think the Bulls realistically are.
He has, but you got to pick between Ayo and Javonte Green. You're gonna have to.
No,
pick.
Patrick Williams will take over Javonte Green's spot because Javonte Green's their 4.
Right.
So he goes in. So then you have Zach as your 2, DeRozan as your 3. I'm honestly okay with Ayo starting right now, leaving Alonzo coming off the bench.
That's what I was thinking.
Up until you get to about April. Let Lonzo get his legs under him because this isn't like a shoulder injury. This is a partially torn meniscus, which kept him out for like 2 months. It's not like Caruso with a broken wrist or Patrick Williams.
That meniscus is a pretty damn serious injury.
He's going to need time to. He's going to need time to. He's going to need time to get like his legs under him, which is why I would continue to start Ayo up until you get close to the playoffs, and then bring Lonzo back in because the team is playing very. I think what are they now? 11-4 since Ayo's taken over as the starting point guard.
Right.
Like they're playing very well with Ayo in there. And Ayo's proving that he was probably the biggest steal of the draft last year and is more than capable of handling the point guard duties once Lonzo Ball leaves.
I don't know. I mean, listen, for Chicago, it's a good problem.
It's a more than a good problem because right now they can go 10, 11 guys deep, realistically. Because if you go back to their opening night starting lineup, you'd have Lonzo, Levine, DeRozan, Williams, and Vucevic as your starting 5. Then your second unit, you would have Ayo coming in to play point. Caruso would be your 2. Kobe White would be in there as your 3. Then you have Tristan Thompson now. And then Javonte Green. So they have legitimately can go 10 deep every single night, plus other guys that have been playing a ton of minutes over the last 2 months. Chicago can go 12, 13 guys deep in any single game. Realistically, when these rest of these pieces come back, they will have 13 guys that they can go to.
Again, Chicago, it's a good problem, but it's a problem nonetheless.
It's a good problem, but it's a problem they have to figure out before the playoffs.
They gonna have to 100%.
Yeah, so you have that chemistry in your
the chemistry. I'm not even worried about
the chemistry. I just think you need to establish a pecking order,
Yeah.
especially because
how many?
Yeah, like again, how many guys are in a typical rotation? Like in a typical
usually 8 or 9.
It's like
usually 8 or 9.
Well, yeah, it's usually 8 or 9, right?
It's usually 11, but it's usually like 8 or 9 guys that give you like 15
so it's like
minutes, and then
guys,
2 guys that give you like 7.
But you need to understand once you get to the playoffs, those 8 or 9
goes to 6 or 7.
It shrinks to like 6.
And that's why I said I think Chicago has theoretically 12 or 13 guys right now that'll give you, which will shrink down to like 9.
Right.
Once the playoffs start, which even at 9, I mean, Tristan Thompson would be your 9th option. That's not a bad 9th option to have.
No. Especially not in the playoffs.
No, and Caruso is most likely going to be your 8th scoring option. That's not a bad 8th option to have.
Yep. But, again, still good. It's a problem, but it's a good problem nonetheless. We're going to end it with that. It's been ASAP in the morning. I wish MJ stayed so we could take a flaming L so we can just stop talking about this myth, bro. Oh my God, bro. Like if I had one wish, I want him to stay so he could take an L. Because I'm telling you, if he's 6-1, we're not having the conversation about
I think that was more of a hot take than Jay's hot take because it's got Pride all hyped up.
I try not to get hyped up, but Jay just gets me tight. He does this to piss me off.
I do. Pride, I do it on purpose. It's calculated.
He doesn't care about who's the GOAT. He doesn't care about any of that. He's like, how do I get Pride tight?
It's not only
true.
It's
That's
not only
true.
that. Like
I literally last night went to bed saying, you know what? ASAP is in the morning. I'm going to see what I could do for Pride. What can I do? And I literally put a short list of things that I think that if I say is going to get a serious reaction out of Pride. And I've tried to sprinkle it in throughout this conversation this morning. And a couple of times I really had you good.
And Tom Brady's ago, and all of us have said that. But Jay would just be throwing like devil's advocate. Well, if Peyton Manning played in the NFC instead of the AFC, would he be the GOAT? Would he have been able to beat Brady in the Super Bowl?
Right.
Hey, no, if Thomas Edward Patrick Brady Jr. was playing for the Detroit Lions, we're not talking about him.
We still are, just not with 7 rings. He might have 2 or 3.
Listen, bro. I hope Tom Brady returns. I want him to go to Detroit, and when he wins another Super Bowl, what is it like? Super Bowl number 3,000. When he wins that, 70 years old. You know what I mean? Me and Tom.
Hey, I'll say that. Hey, literally, if Tom, because I've always said this: Detroit is where careers go to die.
Any quarterback if Aaron Rodgers goes to either the Detroit Lions or the Jets, and he gets into the Super Bowl, I'm not gonna call him the GOAT, but I'll call him number 2.
Yeah, because if you can win a Super Bowl with Detroit, that's saying something.
It's not even if you can win a Super Bowl with Detroit. If you can get Detroit to the NFC Championship game, for that matter,
that's a win.
That's saying something too.
Same with the Jets. Like if you can get the Jets back into the playoffs and into like the AFC Championship game, that's a win. You can walk away then and be like, all right, we're done. Did what I came before.
That's hilarious, bro. But it's been ASAP in the morning. We'll be back here tomorrow, 10 a.m.
Homework, Jay.
Eastern, 9 Central.
I am.
On behalf of Jay, Chris, and Dustin, before we sign off, Dustin, you got a stat of the day?
If the Major League Baseball does not reach a deal by Friday, a delay to the season is 100% going to happen because talks will not pick up until April at that point. And once that happens, Major League Baseball is considering doing a replacement roster, which is what they did in 1995 after the last strike happened. And for those unfamiliar with that, it basically gives Major League Baseball 38 players that they can just kind of pick and choose how to use them, whether it's in spring training, whether it's in regular season, and it doesn't count towards their 40-man roster. So in other words, it would kind of be like minor league baseball in the majors where you just move pieces around just to fill a roster when you need it.
What a time to be alive. What a time indeed. The longer this lasts, I'm telling you, I don't think we're gonna get baseball this year.
Yeah, we will. We'll have college baseball. We'll have.
No, I'm talking about MLB baseball. I'm talking about MLB baseball.
No, you're not having it until 2023.
No, we're not. But again, it gives a perfect opportunity for everybody else.
And that's a good topic too. Can baseball? How would if you lost a whole year? How would that affect the relevancy or lack thereof relevancy?
We're talking about that tomorrow.
Well, Mike Trout. I'm just saying, Mike Trout's contract is what's going to have to be talked about if they lose an entire year, because they're not going to be able to afford a $400 million contract with no revenue coming in.
Not only him. Javier Baez just signed one like that.
No, Javier Baez is only at like 21, 22. His isn't that bad.
No,
Javier Baez is at 5 at 134. His with Detroit's not that bad. But Max Scherzer's contract is like 3 at 110.
That's what I'm talking about.
Yeah, Max Scherzer's is like 3 at 110 or 3 at 120. So like he's getting $40 million a year. Trevor Bauer technically is getting $35 million a year yet when he comes back.
I think they're just going to buy.
But I'm just saying, like all these teams that have a player making $40 million a year aren't going to be able to pay him with no money coming in.
Well, technically speaking, if they don't play the year, then that's actually 1 year's salary. They don't have to pay him.
They have to pay him, yeah.
They still have to pay him, even though the baseball's got a lockout.
Because baseball's guaranteed.
Injury
or not. Games played or not, the players get paid no matter what.
Oh, that's why they're digging their heels in, because they know they're getting paid anyway.
That's why the players aren't budging, because it doesn't matter to them.
Yeah, hey, listen, I'll strike all day long because they ain't hitting me in the pocketbook.
Exactly. Wow, I didn't.
I learned something today. Thank you, Dustin. I did not realize that money still goes to them, even though they're in a lockout.
Yep.
Damn. Okay.
That's why this is going to go on, because players have nothing to lose besides not playing, but they still get paid.
Wow, that's crazy. That's
It is.
interesting.
But we're gonna go into way more detail on that tomorrow. On behalf of Jay, Dustin, and Chris, it's your boy Pride. We'll be back here tomorrow, 10 a.m. Eastern, 9 Central. Until then, y'all know what to do. Be safe.
All sports, all plays. Yeah. All sports, all plays. All sports, all plays. 365, we making a plays. You talking the game, get you through the days. We're out in the court, the dime in the lane. Variety, topics, living the same. All presentation, sports information. In the airways, taking the nation. All sport, all plays, like working your faces. Grace at the field, so tie the laces. All sports, all plays.